Hello and welcome to Fresh Off the Dome, your topic-based podcast where it's all killer, no filler. We just talk ad nauseum until we get nauseous, and have a conversation and like go deep into it, and until we're done talking about it. I am your host Brian Nabeshin Jackson, and I'm joined today with my good friend,
Hey.
Lefty Logan, Logan
Hey.
Wilkenson.
Pleasure to be on there, Nabeshin. Pleasure to be on.
So today's topic is going to be about superhero movies.
hmm
Usually I will save to the end what brought on this inspiration as far as this topic, but uh because I specifically asked for you, Logan, and
hmm
there's a specific reason for that.
I think I know the reason. I thought about it more, and I think I might know.
It's something that happened like months ago, and it was a good conversation, or it's a good way that you said it that
hmm
put everything into perspective for me.
hmm
Um, like we were having a conversation. Actually, it was involved Roger. Actually, like Roger just put out like a tweet saying people who hate Batman v Superman like gets a slap to the face or whatever, and it's like you respond to him like, hey, it is a good movie, and and I was still at the time at that period just saying like how can you say that like blah 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 blah
Yeah.
shitting on your opinion, which gone I like because of this conversation I rectified myself as far as doing that, but you put it in a good perspective for me. It's like,
hmm
oh, it's not like it's not Spider-Man 2, but
Yeah.
it's something like X-Men or X-Men
hmm
1 or something like that, something along that line. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. And then it's because of that conversation where it weirdly changed me as far as in a lot of ways, as far as just the whole 140 characters or
Mm.
280, whatever you want to say it now.
Yeah.
It's like trying to boil down something so having a conversation with somebody and just saying oh, this is great, and you saying it's great doesn't mean it's the best thing ever. It's saying
Yep.
oh, it's just I enjoy it. I enjoy it for what it is, and it's like, you know what, yeah, and it really has changed me and made me it's so weird because it's a so unconscious it's a throwaway conversation, but it really has changed the way I think about stuff now, and even when I was responsive to this stuff, and
hmm
and so it got to the point where I don't like putting down people if they enjoy something.
Yeah.
If you enjoy it, enjoy it. Just
Yeah.
enjoy yourself. And I don't want to be the person to take that away from you. It's like I don't want to be someone like, hey man, I just won the lottery, and it's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
9/11 still happened. And it's it just took away all the good feeling I just had for
Yeah.
that moment. So you know what,
Yeah.
let's enjoy ourselves. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, and that's why I don't know. That's why I wanted to bring you on. And I just wanted to have a good conversation about this.
Okay. I mean, it's funny too because I stand by the fact that Batman v Superman is a good movie, and then I feel like I always have to say it's a good movie. It's not a great movie, like you said. It's not. I'm not saying Batman v Superman is The Dark Knight or Spider-Man 2 or any of these things, but I do think that the kind of like people who kind of think back and be like, man, that was like the worst movie ever made, and it's like, was it though?
Mm-hmm.
Like Flubber was the movie that was pretty terrible. I think we have to, put in perspective. Yeah, it was there were flaws in Batman v Superman, and also maybe admit that there were things about it that were good too, right? I don't even
Mm-hmm.
think Batman v Superman was the worst DC movie last year, right? Suicide Squad came out this year, that was pretty rough, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's important, I think, to I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm an optimist and I'm just kind of positive, happy-go-lucky guy. I always try to find the good and enjoyable things in pieces of art, whether they be film, games, etc., etc. And I enjoyed Batman v Superman.
Mm-hmm.
It was goofy and it was silly and it was cartoony and it was comicky. And there were parts that were all right, I wish I didn't do that, but it's there was definitely good in that movie, right? And I am excited for Justice League. I'm that movie looks fun and it looks, I guess, kind of concerning, but I don't know. I'm an optimist. I'll go and hoping for the best. That's what I did for Suicide Squad. That one didn't work out, but more often than not, I've enjoyed the DC slate of movies, right? And it's for me, it's the same thing. Not to immediately already segue the conversation, but it's the same thing for James Bond for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the world's biggest James Bond fan. I love those movies. I love those movies. And for me, the more egregious sin in a James Bond film is not that the movie is bad, but that the movie is boring, right? And it's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing for superhero movies. I'd rather the movie be bad but fun than boring, than just kind of plain, right? Like I look at like Man of Steel, and Man of Steel is a good movie. It's like technically sound and it's well shot and well directed, and there's really really great moments in that movie. Like I think the first half of that movie in particular is like really really standout, but the back half is just kind of like, all right, this is just kind of boring, and like what are we? There's just a giant fight for 40 minutes, and this isn't really that exciting and whatever. Whereas Batman v Superman is just like, here's a bunch of shit and it's crazy and it's like over the top and explosions, man. It's like, all right, yeah, like I like those things. I like crazy over the top, like cartoony things, right? Like I can appreciate that. Like I think if I enjoy Batman v Superman, that doesn't in the same like sentence mean that like, oh, it means I have to hate the Dark Knight and like Spider-Man 2. And it's like, no, like I can enjoy both. I do enjoy both, right? And like I can enjoy terrible movies like The Man with the Golden Gun Bond film, and also enjoy like Skyfall, which is like this awesome, like well, like crafted masterpiece of a movie, right? And like you can do both, and it makes me happy to hear that like you've gotten like this whole new perspective, because that is definitely not what I expected when I said Batman v Superman is a good movie, but it definitely makes me happy. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the power of Martha bringing people together here in Nabeshin. You know what I mean? Like
it was like. And, you know, like, it still hasn't really changed my opinion on that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still don't really like that movie a lot for a lot of reasons, which we'll probably go through eventually.
Yeah, I'm
like,
sure.
But, you know, like, let's start off for, like, as far as, like, superhero movies in general. Like, like, do you have any, like, background? Do you, like, have you been a comic reader? Or did you just used to watch cartoons and just, like, adapt it to the movies? Or
this is what's funny to me is that, like, I love comic book movies and I love, like, superhero stories, but I never have really gotten into comics. The first comics I ever owned, I bought this year, right? And like I bought like 4 of them and haven't even finished all 4 of them yet. But it's like, and I watched Batman the Animated Series as a kid. Obviously, that's a staple. And then I watched Batman Beyond and like Static Shock. And shout out to Static Shock though. That is a criminally underappreciated cartoon.
For sure.
But I did all of that, but like I wasn't really ever like super into comics, and it was more of the thing for me of just, it was Batman. I've always loved Batman, even as a kid. And then as I got a little bit older until like my teens, and like right around the time like Captain America movie started happening, I got really into Captain America. And those have been my 2 guys, and since like 2005, roughly like the Chris Nolan era of Batman like movies.
Oh, for sure.
I've like really gotten a lot more into them, obviously, as the kind of the quality and craftsmanship of them have risen. But yeah, like it's weird because I do love those stories so much, and I do love those characters so much. But like for me, it is, again, not to go back to like the same like analogy here of James Bond, but it's like I love the James Bond movies. I don't like the James Bond books. That's not my James Bond. That's not my like characters in the world. In the same way for like, I love the like superhero like Batman movies and like Iron Man and Captain America and Avengers movies. That's my world. That's my universe. And like the comic ones, just like these aren't my characters and these aren't my, like, they're just different. It doesn't feel the same. And so I would say I've always loved them. I've always enjoyed them, going back to like the early 90s, like the animated series and like the Tim Burton Batman movies, which were terrifying as a kid, especially Batman Returns. But like I've never really gotten super into like the actual comic book realm of it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same as you. Like, obviously, I adore cartoons when I was younger.
Sure.
To the extent, like, watched the Spider-Man cartoon and watched X-Men cartoon,
yep.
Batman the Animated Series. Got really into all that stuff. And like I discussed earlier, in a previous episode of one of these with Kaylee Woomer, like got really into the Bruce Timmverse, and like that's how I knew about continuity, and how essential that is to like something that's that can carry on for you, and like it's something that you can really hold dear, and like obviously like Batman '89 is like one of my favorite movies ever, just like, visually, and like
Interesting.
And actors and stuff like that. Like, you know, Jack Nicholson is one of my favorite actors of all
Yeah,
time.
obviously, yeah.
Just like it's something that was just like an easy thing for me to swallow, like when I was younger, because like, you know, like watch Batman constantly, and then like all 4 Batman movies, like I went to the theater to see all of them. Yeah, '89. I was in 3. Maybe I didn't go to that one. I was 3 at the time, but like I definitely saw. We had the VHS.
I was -3.
Yeah. We had VHSs of that, so like
Oh
I
god,
used to
yeah.
watch it like
Yep.
constantly, just watch it like all the time when I was
Over
at
and
my
over again.
grandma's house. Yep, I love that movie to death. Um, and then
How do
like
you
eventually,
feel
mhm.
about, not to interrupt, like how do you feel about like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin?
It's funny because like I used to love Batman and
Yep.
not Batman, but Batman Forever,
Yeah,
specifically
100%.
Batman Forever, because like Jim Carrey was a big thing around that
Yep.
time, and like
Tommy Lee Jones too.
oh
As
yeah,
two.
definitely, and like but it was like definitely like Jim Carrey was the thing for that movie for me, and that's why I just kept watching that. That was another
Hmm.
VHS when I used to watch over and
Yep.
over again. Batman and Robin, which is weird because like I saw it in theaters. I remember enjoying
Hmm.
it in theaters, and then like I never needed to own the like the VHS or DVD at the time because like
Yep.
it was always on TV like
It
every
still
single
was.
time. It was constantly on TV. So I watched it all the time. I was in love with Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
and
Oh
I
my god,
enjoyed it
so
for the
good.
time. It's
Yeah.
like, and it's something I could definitely still watch.
Hmm.
I could recognize it's a bad movie, obviously,
Hmm.
but like, it was something that I could still watch to this day,
Yeah.
honestly.
I would love, like I've said I've wanted to do it for years. Like I would love to do like a kind of like rewind like thing where like me and like a few people just sit down and watch either Batman Forever, realistically Batman and Robin, and just like experience that movie now as adults and like see just like the crazy cheesy over the top like how bad it is and just like have that kind of react thing to it. Like I would love to do that. Like
Hmm.
because that movie is so weird and like honestly out of all of the Batman movies, I easily quote Batman and Robin the most, just because
Oh,
like
for
Arnold
sure.
Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze has so many like perfect cheesy terrible lines, just like "Ice to meet you" and "It's time to chill" and it's like all right,
Feel the
like
body.
yeah, right. It's like it's such a bad movie, but it is like there is something like endearing in like that awfulness, which is like it owned it and it's like terrible and like it definitely is not a good movie, but it's like there is something just kind of like, and I think it's definitely like you said, like the age thing too, right? Like I can point out somewhere in this place like the Batman action figure I still have to this day from Batman and Robin, where it's like him in like the ice suit and like the blue everything,
Hmm.
and it's like especially as a kid because that came out in like '98 roughly somewhere like that, and I'm a 6 year old kid there. That's perfect for me. That is a like cartoony over the top Batman in like movie, and so like I loved it. And then as I got older, I was like, okay, that was terrible. I probably shouldn't talk about that anymore. But it definitely is like a weird like the mid '90s. Growing up as a Batman kid in that time period, right, is like the Tim Burton super dark era's ending, and then like the Frank Miller like era of comics is like kind of winding down to or has
Hmm.
winded down. And you have the animated series, but even that by '98 is over, right? That's not going on anymore. So it's like the cartoons you have and the image of Batman you have is this are these two live action movies where he's a bit more kind of campy and silly and goofy. And so like there definitely is a soft spot for that in my heart. I still think to say.
Hmm. Uh, I also wanted to mention too, the Richard Donner Superman. That was also a
Mm.
movie that was like I
Yes.
was really into. Especially Superman 2. That's one of my not my favorite movie, but like it's one of my favorite superhero movies because of
Mm.
the ideals of Superman and what he
Mm.
stood for at the time. So yeah, that one
Two over one.
two for one. Yeah, definitely two
Mm.
for one.
Interesting.
Zod, Zod. That's all I really need to say.
Sure. Yeah.
Zod.
Yeah.
Um, for a question for you, Logan,
Yeah.
like before, let's say like every movie before Iron Man 1, like what would you say like
Okay.
are the standouts as far as like superhero movies? So that would be like the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
We could say the Nolan movies, but you know that would win automatically. But like
Yeah. I was
anything
gonna
before,
say.
like anything before that, that would be like Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3.
Mhm.
No,
Uh.
that wouldn't be that. What? Yeah, I
Yeah. I
guess
mean.
it would. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. All right, all right.
So I mean, I would say my favorite movie before like the Marvel Cinematic Universe took place, and we're not counting Batman Begins and Dark Knight. Uh, oof. I'm
Because those are different kind of movies, right? If you really
yeah.
think about it.
I would either say the original '89 Batman. I would say probably Spider-Man 2. Probably Spider-Man 2. Right. Like
Mm-hmm.
the thing for me is that I have such a weird relationship with X-Men. Right. Like obviously my name is Logan. I'm a massive Wolverine fan. I had no choice in the matter. Like it was just set by destiny there. Um, and those original three X-Men movies, I think, are very. I mean, they're arguably the most important superhero movies, especially in the last like 20, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because like basically opened the floodgates to like the modern era superhero movies. But I don't think any of them, have aged well. 1, 2, or 3.
It's funny too because like I think of two fondly, but like I
Yes.
haven't seen it in years, so
Yeah,
I don't
and
know how that holds up.
I think 2 probably holds up the best. And also the thing of 2 is that like those movies are all really dark. Those movies are all really kind of like sad, and they have a very kind of melancholic feel to them. They're very kind of heavy movies. And growing up as a kid, I enjoyed X1 and I enjoyed X2, but they're very serious and they're very like thoughtful and thought provoking and like deal with these huge heavy themes. And it's like, this is a lot right now, y'all. Whereas Spider-Man, especially Spider-Man 1 and 2, I think handled that so well, but also kind of had that still some of that kind of fun that is embedded in Spider-Man. So I would probably say Spider-Man 2 is my favorite out of that era, with 89 Batman being a close runner up. And then I might pick X1 over X2 just because it is so there. Like, no, man, if you weren't like alive or weren't there in the moment for when like the original X-Men came out in theaters, like that moment in time was such a like, I'd never seen anything like that before. Like I'd never seen anything like that original X movie in theaters. Like it was just like an experience, right? And so maybe that too, like would be my like top 3.
Question: was Watchmen out around that time?
I think Watchmen, I want to say, came out the same year as Iron Man, or maybe a year before, a year after. It's right around the same time.
Okay.
Do you like Watchmen?
I've actually never seen Watchmen.
Watchmen is a movie I also saw. It's so weird talking about like superhero movies pre Iron Man, because it was just such a like scattershot hit or miss, like what was going to stick against the wall, right? Like I saw every superhero movie that I could possibly get my hands on before 2008 and Iron Man, because you had to, right? Because like it was so special, so new. Like we had X-Men 1 and 2 and 3. We had Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, but we also had Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, which were very much misses. We had the Punisher movie, which was good. I mean, at the time I loved it and I loved the game, but like I haven't seen the movie in 10 years probably now. And then we had we had 2 Hawk movies, at least 1 for sure. And so it was just such a like kind of smorgasbord of like, and they weren't unified, and like the level of quality in them was so like scattershot again and like hit or miss. Yeah. Like you didn't know what you were going to get, but you knew that you had to go see the superhero movie. You had to support this because like you didn't know if we were going to get another one, basically. Like it was so like special stuff. It was so new, and it was such a risk still, it felt like, and it was such a like kind of renegade thing in the movie industry that you had to go support them. And so then to see like Iron Man come out, and then like obviously this has now fundamentally changed the movie industry. It's different, but like back then, like it was so like I really love that Punisher movie, but like I'm pretty positive it's not a good movie, but I love that movie because like as a kid I went to see that in theaters like 3 times, and then me and my like best friend at the time bought that movie and played that and watched the movie over and over and over again, and then bought the Punisher game and played that game over and over because you had to like we felt like we had to support these things. Like it was, we never knew if we were going to get another superhero movie again. Like we just fell in love with all of them. And so it's such a like, it's like looking back, it feels like the Wild West, right? Like there's also the like Spawn movie too, and like
those Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah, Jesus, like I remember watching this and being like, this is awesome. Like I can't believe we're getting a Fantastic Four movie and it's good. And then it's like, obviously it's not good at all, but it's like you had to believe because you didn't know if you were ever going to get another one, right? And it's like, man, like my youngest one is 17, right? And so like the movies I'm talking about, when he's 7 years old, 8 years old, somewhere like that, when Iron Man comes out. It's like he missed out on, he has no idea of any of this kind of a dark era of superhero movies, right? And so it's like, man, what a different like world to be a high school senior now and not really know of any of this kind of like crazy Wild West, like scattershot, dark age of superhero movies thing. And it's like, man, like I grew up when it was like, you could go to the movie and see a superhero movie and it would be like, it could be like a masterpiece, like The Dark Knight, or it could be the Punisher, the Hulk, the like Spawn, Fantastic Four. Like you didn't really know what you were going to get into.
Yeah, for sure. Like for my end, like I would definitely say like Superman 2. Like even though that's like a 70s movie, like it's still
78, I think 79.
Yeah, it holds up like amazingly well. And it's shot just beautifully. Like I used to have it, right? I don't have it anymore.
Superman Returns too is in there.
Oh, you're right. Ooh, that was
I remember seeing that one at a drive-in movie theater and being like, "That's a movie. That's a way to go."
Oh, like I remember the one thing I took away from that movie was I can't remember the actor's name. I apologize, but like it was Kumar from Harold Kumar was in that movie, and he didn't have one line in that movie.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was in there, but he didn't have one line in that entire movie. That's the one thing I remember from Superman Returns.
Oh, you're right. He was one of like Lex Luthor's henchmen, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Oh, dude, yeah.
He had a lot of screen time, but he didn't say one line in that entire movie. I was like, that's insane.
That's so weird.
Oh
wow, okay.
But definitely Superman 2, definitely Batman 89. Like I've always said, that's one of my favorite movies. And Spider-Man 2, which I rewatched recently because like it was like right after Spider-Man Homecoming, and like me liking that movie, and like I had issues with that movie, but I still really like it. But like rewatching Spider-Man 2, like just because like, I was like, I remember Spider-Man 2 be like really good, and like it is still really good. It has like, it's campy as fuck, and like it's a Sam Raimi movie, so you get what you expect from that movie.
Yeah.
There was weird shots in that movie with like the civilians are like getting like the center screen, and like this like it's shot really weird, that movie.
Yeah.
But like the ending for that movie, I think is like perfect. That's
the final act is
ending.
One of the best like final acts of. I would go as far as say like one of the best final acts of any movie I've seen, period, let alone superhero movie, right? Like from the train scene on, that movie is just like flawless almost. It is beautiful, like from that point on.
It's just go get him, Tiger, and just like that whole thing of her running from the wedding, and like it's weird seeing her running in a wedding dress and like being all happy. That's a weird scene, but like other than that, though, like it's perfect, dude. It's perfect.
The scene of Peter on the train, like getting like lifted by everybody, is a moment that I've never forgotten. Like always, like that moment of him on the train, like just kind of like limp and being like lifted up by everybody, and then like set down and like he's just a kid kind of thing. Like I remember sitting in the theater watching it, being like, this is like it like was an eye-opening like moment for me to being like, films can tell these like crazy stories I didn't even know about. Like there's so much like depth and emotion and like heart in that movie. Like Spider-Man 2's final act is fantastic. Yeah,
for sure. But now that we're talking about somewhat of the Marvel universe,
let's jump right in.
Yeah, like what do you feel? How are you feeling about those movies right now? Like currently, how are you feeling? Like, because for me, like I'm still good on them. Like I'm still like, yeah, of course I'll see everyone that you put out. It's fine.
Yeah.
Still haven't seen Ant-Man. I still need to get around to doing that.
I haven't either.
But like I feel, and for some reason I just feel this way. But like after like the last Avengers movie, after the the Infinity Stones or whatever it's called, the Infinity Wars. After that one's over, I think I'm just pretty much done with like seeing these type of movies.
Yeah,
like they are similar. In fact, they're very similar. Like it's almost the same formula, almost in every one of them. But like they're never bad though, or at least not terrible, I should say. We have like our Age of Ultron, which is like like a movie that you can see once and like instantly just forget about.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for the most part, like you have like different stuff like Doctor Strange and like Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
Different takes to like the same formula, but like spread out in different ways. Like I see they're trying, but like it still doesn't. It's a weird thing. It feels like one of those things where it's like I eat pizza every day, and like I love pizza, but like it's kind of gets stale after a while.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like I'm in largely the same boat, right? Like especially because like I feel like we're building towards something now. Like we're building towards infinity, where we've been building there for a decade. Like it's like this huge kind of culmination of a journey kind of thing. I mean, it feels like it should end there, and I think for almost all of the main cast, I think it will end there, right? Like I think there's gonna be a very clean break. And then we're going to get something new going on. But I also think that it's like this goes also back into one of the reasons why like I don't read comics. I like stories, right? And stories have a beginning, a middle, and then they have an end, and things like they need to end eventually, right? Like I'm always the guy who says like TV shows should be tight. It should be like 5, 6 seasons, and they should end them. They should have endings, right? Like drive towards a point. And so I think the MCU has been very clearly driving towards this for a decade, and then when they're going to get there, that feels like a good point to be like, all right, and it's a good time for a break now, and I can just step back and be like, I'll pick and choose movies I want to see. Anything involving Black Panther, I will see. Anything involving Doctor Strange, I might not. Like, I feel like once Infinity War kind of happens, I will have much more free reign to kind of be like, all right, I feel like the story we were going on is kind of ended, and now it's more of these kind of individual stories involving these particular characters or heroes, and I'll pick and choose that. I'll pick and choose who I want to kind of invest my time in. I do think it's interesting that like the kind of exception to the rule of all of the Marvel movies being the same is Captain America for me. I think all of his movies, I also think they're the two best movies in the entire MCU, but I think all of his movies feel so differently, especially Cap 1 and Cap 2, right? Like I really love Captain America 1. I think it's an awesome like period piece, like very evocative of like the 1940s. I love the style. I love the like frame of it all. And then I also love the fact that all three of Captain America's movies are really sad. They're all very, I mean, he's a tragic hero, right? Like none of his movies ever ended in a happily ever after. None of them. Not a single one has ended happily ever after, right? Like in Captain America 1 has the saddest ending of any Marvel movie. It's got one of the saddest endings of any superhero movie, maybe the saddest, along with like the Dark Knight. Like it's just like, oh, okay, that's fucking sucks. Like it's just like an awful, heartbreaking ending. Captain America 2, they win, I guess, but like they also are like on the run and they're like kind of criminals now, and it's
Shield
like
is kind of destroyed. At the
Shield
moment.
is destroyed, right? And so it's like, and then Captain America 3, him and Tony Stark are like on the outs now, and they hate each other, and they almost like literally murdered each other, and it's a huge rift in the Avengers now. And so it's like none of these movies end happily ever after, and they all feel so different, right? Like, I mean, I think in particular, Winter Soldier is a fantastic movie, not a fantastic superhero movie, a fantastic movie. That is a like 1970s like political thriller done flawlessly, right? Like that is such a well-made like thriller 1970s style like film, like the French Connection on my style, and they're like I love Winter Soldier, and like Robert Redford in there and like makes it even more of just like a 70s style film. Like those films feel different. They have like a kind of spirit and heart to their own, which I feel like a lot of the other movies do sort of, I don't know, blend together at times, right?
Right.
And I do think it's interesting too, because like the non-Captain America movie that's probably my favorite MCU movie is maybe the most divisive movie in the entire MCU, which is Iron Man 3. Like I love Iron Man 3. I think it's a super clever and fun. Like Shane Black is awesome. I love the twist. I love the vibe of it. I love the energy of it. I love Tony Stark and the kid together. Like I love all of that, right? And like I feel like that's clearly where they should have ended Tony Stark's story. I think like just obviously that's where his story should have ended, and Robert Downey Jr. should have left, and we shouldn't have any of this other stuff. Because that is a like perfect ending for his character. But like I love that movie, but it is easily a very divisive and very controversial. People like still rage about that to this day, and it's like, man, I thought it was a fun, enjoyable, happy movie. Maybe not happy, but like a fun movie. I really legitimately love the twist. Like I think that twist is such a clever idea.
Yeah, like I'm right there with you, honestly. Like I actually enjoy all of the Iron Man trilogy. Like even Iron Man 2. Like I'm one of the few people who actually generally like that movie. Like not
it has its moments for sure.
Yeah, like I just think it has like really good moments. Like I really like Robbie Downey Jr.'s like just interpretation of Tony Stark. Like, just like just flat out just like his just the way he carries that movie and the way he presents himself is actually really good. And like really entertaining. Like, and that's like that's like the biggest thing about I could say about like him in general, and like even like the Marvel movies in general is like the entertainment value. Like I've been generally just like entertained just hearing you talk. Like Tony Stark, and this like just the way he just interacts with people. It's just like it's always just like a joy for me. God, like if I could think of like maybe like a movie I didn't really enjoy from the Marvel universe, like even the Thor movies I enjoyed. Like
yes,
Thor's not really that bad.
they're not bad. They're all Thor to me is like they're all very like that was a good movie.
Yeah,
That was a good movie. It wasn't special, wasn't terrible. I was like that was a good movie.
yeah,
It was better than some of like the kind of middling to awful superhero movies, and it was worse than some of the great ones. It was that was a good movie. I think Thor Ragnarok looks awesome.
yeah,
I'm very excited for that.
yeah. Very much so.
But like I think Thor probably is the worst one in the MCU, right? And even that's
Yeah.
like this is good. I mean, like I'm trying to think of anything. Maybe the Hulk movie, right? Like maybe that would be the worst. But I honestly don't hate the Hulk movies. Like either one of the two that we've gotten, I don't hate either one of them.
I'm another one like the Incredible Hulk. I really enjoyed that
Yeah.
movie. Hulk, not so much, but like the Incredible Hulk, definitely.
I'm trying like and I feel like because Marvel in particular has like kind of really nailed it down, like you kind of alluded to that, like they don't make bad movies, right? Like they largely follow the same formula, with the exception of like Captain America movies, and so it's like it's hard to screw that up. I mean,
that and Guardian of the Galaxy, I should mention, by the way.
oh, Guardians of the Galaxy. Oof. One, and I think two is probably even better than one. I love those movies. That's great. Because like all the movies that are bad in the last decade that I'm thinking of are like Fantastic Four again, and like that kind of stuff. But none of those are Marvel. Like Amazing Spider-Man 2 isn't great, but that's not Marvel. I mean, not a MCU. Huh? It's yeah. Like I guess I would say Thor is the worst one, even those are good.
Speaking of Spider-Man, like let's
Yeah.
have a discussion on that. Like,
Yeah.
have you ever like so it's interesting, right? Like with Spider-Man in particular, like 1, 2, and 3, saw all of them in theaters day one. There, enjoyed 1, loved 2.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I loved the 1 at the time. I'm cold to it right now, but like it's because I haven't seen it in a long time, and like I just in my mind I just don't think it holds up. You know, like
Yeah.
it probably does, but like I just don't. I in my mind's eye, I don't think it holds up. 2,
Yeah.
like I said, I just watched recently. It was still like one of the best ones for me. 3, I actually haven't re-seen 3 in a while.
The thing about, I mean, I haven't either, to be fair, but like the thing about 3 to me that I always say is that like Spider-Man 3 is like 10 different stories at once, and 2 or 3 of them are great. 2 or 3 of them are just outright bad, and then the rest are just kind of middling and okay. And so just like it turns into this messy, chaotic movie where it's like there are like legitimately really great moments, and there are also like really, really terrible moments, and most are just kind of like that's okay, right? Like it's just like this roller coaster of highs and lows, and like they couldn't decide what to do. And Venom is just kind of a mess, and that they shouldn't have really. I mean, you can't have Eric from that '70s show be Venom. It just doesn't really work.
Or have like 10 minutes of screen time or whatever.
Yeah, right. And like the same and stuff, and like because like the problem is that like each one of the villains should have been their own movie, right? Like that.
Yeah.
The culmination of like the Green Goblin story should have been its own movie. Sandman should have been his own movie, and Venom should have been his own movie. In fact, they like jam them all together. It's just like X-Men 3, where it's like these are too many stories at once now, and so it's just kind of a overstuffed, chaotic mess. But there, for all of the like Peter Parker dancing down the street scenes, there is some good in that movie too. Like there are moments that are like that was good. I enjoyed that. Right, like in particular, I think the dynamic between like Peter and Harry is still really good in that movie. Right, like I think that dynamic still really works.
And Gwen Stacy was in that movie.
Yes.
A lot of people forget about that.
Yes. She didn't get her neck snapped. Spoiler alert. It's coming though, Gwen.
Yeah. It's funny too, because like it was like after those 3 movies, like, okay, and then like when he announced Amazing Spider-Man, it was like it was like for me, like I've never seen 1 or 2, and it was like
Really?
because it was like one of those things like this seems unnecessary. This seems something like this is like what 10 years ago or whatever, but like even back then, like I was like this something seems wrong, like putting these out the way they have put it out, and like how quickly that was. It seemed very corporate, and it seemed very deliberate, and like for some reason in me I was like I just didn't want any part of that, and like I just never seen them.
I think you can go without seeing Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think Amazing Spider-Man 1 is pretty good.
Like
it's definitely
I hear like the Peter Parker stuff in Emma Stone Stacey stuff is like the best part of those.
I mean, like the chemistry is amazing. Obviously, I mean, they did it for like 5 years, so they have really good chemistry. But like that, yeah, Peter Parker, Gwen Stacy stuff is really, really good. I like the fact that he's kind of a more like slightly more arrogant, kind of like confident, cocky, like Spider-Man 2, which I really enjoyed. Plus, it's got Martin Sheen in it. and Sally Field. I mean, the cast is loaded in Amazing Spider-Man 1. I think Amazing Spider-Man 1 holds up. I think it's a good movie still. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is, again, it's just like Spider-Man 3 and X-Men 3. It's just kind of like there's too many characters and it's a mess and everything, but they're also, I think the last like 15, 20 minutes of Amazing Spider-Man 2 is one of my favorite endings of any superhero movie ever. Like that ending is really, really good. Like once, again, spoiler, Gwen Stacy like dies on, that movie gets like really, really, really good. Like it gets like really like emotional and intense and like kind of meditative. And I really dug the kind of like sudden U-turn in direction. But you probably can avoid seeing it, or just YouTube the ending.
So, what are your general thoughts on Spider-Man: Homecoming? It's been a while now, so like, we should have.
I haven't on that a lot. And don't tell Alex and Neil, I have not seen Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Okay.
I haven't seen it. I want to really badly, but it was like there were like a ton of movies that came out this summer, and I was like, I'll see one or the other. And I want to say, I think Spider-Man: Homecoming came out either like the week before or after like Dunkirk came out, or like somewhere in the same timeline.
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, Dunkirk was my most anticipated movie of the year, and it's currently my movie of the year. And so I was like, well, that's my priority. I'll watch Spider-Man: Homecoming later. I know that is like, I can watch it at home and it'll be fine. Whereas Dunkirk, I want to see in a theater. And so I haven't got around to seeing it yet. Everything I've heard has me very excited. I love everything I hear about it, right? And so I'm excited to try it out.
Like for me with Spider-Man: Homecoming, a movie I really did enjoy. Because like from the beginning, and it's like you're just smiling, you're enjoying this, and like you enjoy every moment of that movie. I feel it's totally stellar, just like the casting and like and what they have, what they show for you in that movie. Like probably like the like, because there's like the biggest issue about that movie is just like it's not Spider-Man enough, and it's weird to say that too, because like it's a Spider-Man movie, and this is a kid who loves being Spider-Man. Like he fucking loves it, and you can just like tell like, yeah, I'm jazzed to be Spider-Man. I'm jazzed to be like probably part of the Avengers. I'm jazzed to talk to Tony Stark every once in a while and stuff like that. And like that's all cool, but you don't get the Spider-Man in that. You don't get like compared to Spider-Man 2, you don't get the relationship issues, at least not the real ones. Like the thing about Spider-Man 2, like I think people honestly forget, because like it seemed like people forgot about this. Like with Spider-Man 2, like it's about sacrificing a lot of stuff, sacrificing a lot of stuff to like either like do good or to get what you want. Like because I can't remember the line, like because Aunt May had like a really good line about like doing these sacrifices. Because like Peter had to sacrifice like he could not be Spider-Man anymore if he wants to give the love of his life. That was like that was just the thing that he had to like make that decision, and like he just got to that point like, I need to do this. I need to like I want a normal life. I don't want this thing if it sacrificed the love of my life. And it came to a point where like he literally can't do that, because like with great power comes great responsibility. And
I was gonna say.
Like it you can tell like it tore him up inside, and like this is like tell Mary Jane again like, hey, I actually can't be there for you. Like I can't be this person for you. I have to be this other thing, and I'm sorry. And like I revealed that he was Spider-Man, and like they got together and everything like that. But like the whole that whole mythos, that whole issue, like that thing that makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, that is not in that movie whatsoever. And it's not a problem, but it's like it's just a concern. There's no line of like, or even like an equivalent to great power, great responsibility type of thing in that movie. It's still a good movie. Please understand that it's a good movie. But like, it's just like that's just like an issue like a lot of people have for it.
I mean, I find that interesting too, because like Spider-Man, I think it is important, because I feel like other people somehow forget this too, where it's like Peter does like stop being Spider-Man for a good chunk of that movie. He's not Spider-Man. He's just Peter Parker now and like living that life, right? And then at the end, like you said, his like identity gets revealed and all that stuff, and he's like, I have to be Spider-Man, great power, great responsibility, all that stuff. And like him and Mary Jane get together kind of thing. But like the last like shot of that movie is him having to leave Mary Jane, right? It's him having to be like, I have to be Spider-Man, I have to do this, right? Like it's him flying out the window, and it's like this triumphant, awesome, like epic moment of him like swinging around the city. But then the last shot is it cuts back to Mary Jane and her kind of like longing, wistful, like question, like, did I do the right thing? Look, right? Like it ends not on Peter Parker being awesome, but on like kind of the repercussions of Peter Parker having to be Spider-Man, right? Like the emotional toll it takes on the people around him, right? Like, I think that kind of pathos and kind of the effects of this is something that Spider-Man has always done really well, right? Like, obviously, there's a million books and words and written articles about like Peter Parker and what makes him special as a hero, but the fact that he isn't Bruce Wayne or Clark Kent or Tony Stark or Steve Rogers, right? The fact that he is a kid and he's not a rich billionaire and he's just like, he wants to be here, right? Like he thinks that like he can do some good in the world, right? He doesn't really even know that he can do some good in the world. He just thinks he can. He thinks he might make it a little bit better, right? And like he'd like to do that, but he'd also like to have a life and like to have like a college degree and a job and like money and to take care of Aunt May and to like be with Mary Jane and like to have friends and all these other things. And like he wants to have a full and a rich life, right? While serving people, while serving the world and doing good, right? And in a way where it's like Clark Kent is like Superman. Clark Kent is not really like a real person, right? Like he's Clark Kent, but he's just always Superman, right? Like that's his thing. Like he has to be. He's Superman. You can't really turn that off. And Clark Kent doesn't really have a life. His life is like being with Lois Lane, but she's like maybe kind of more in love with Superman anyway. So it's like, okay. And then like Bruce Wayne and Batman, as much as I love him and think that is the best like character in the superhero genre, I mean, you could literally write like an entire like psychological book on this guy about like the problems he has, right? And so he doesn't want, or very rarely, there's only certain moments where he wants like an actual life and like could like legitimately think about not being Batman, right? Like they're few and far between, and when they inevitably go wrong, it serves to like reinforce and be like, all right, just shut it all down. I just want to be Batman. I want to get in my cave and like just pretend to have a life, but don't really have one. Peter's not like that. He wants to actively have the best of both worlds, and this causes huge problems with him, right? Like it causes constant tension and like frustrations and makes him want to quit. Like more than any other superhero, I feel like Peter Parker is one who constantly questions if it's even worth to do what he's doing, right? Like I feel like he questions it more than anybody else, and I think he like legitimately ponders like, what is it worth, and like what is the effect I'm having on the world? And even though he ultimately always kind of comes down on like, yes, I am doing good and it's worth it, he always is much more aware of the kind of sacrifices and the like personal toll it takes on those around him than I think most of the superheroes are, because most of the superheroes are usually by themselves, right? Like it's Batman and it's Captain America, but Captain America doesn't have a life really, and like Iron Man, but Tony Stark doesn't really have a life, and like Clark Kent has Lois, but what does that really mean? And it's like, and the Hulk doesn't, and Thor's whatever. But it's like Peter has a life and he has friends and he's characters, right? And so I've always found that fascinating. And so I think I want to see Homecoming before I make judgment. It's interesting to hear. It's interesting to hear.
Yeah, for sure. Just a general question, because like this is like this is like an issue for a lot of people. Like what's your general thoughts on Superman?
So like, like Greg Miller obviously, I think summed up really well of like the Superman is like the ideals he strives for, and like that's like kind of like he doesn't ask like he always asks like what would Superman do kind of thing, right? Like those ideals he strives for, and I love the ideals of Superman. I think I looked at it and I found that someplace else. I found that in Captain America, right? Like there's a really good conversation actually between on like one of the Game Over Greg shows where like Greg had a comic writer whose name I can't remember right now, and that comic writer, what?
I've seen it too. So
yeah, and the comic writer, I think he's like a huge fan of Captain America, and so they got into this discussion about like why don't you like Captain America, and like it was back and forth, and like well we each kind of came out on different sides, but we each kind of agree on the same basic principles here. I like Superman, I guess. I much more like Clark Kent. I love Clark Kent. I like Superman is where I'm at, right? Like my favorite version of Superman is Smallville, and it's American Alien, and that's what I enjoy, right? Like one of the only comics I read is American Alien because I heard that it's a Clark Kent story, and it's like that's what I want, right? Like Greg again always says like when they go to like Superman being in like in space and like fighting like mega monsters and doing that kind of stuff, he's like he he doesn't care. Right? He doesn't get interested in that. He cares about like when it's the Clark Kent story and like the toll it takes on him and trying to live up to like those ideals and like that kind of like Midwestern, born in like a farm kid, right? And like that obviously related to Greg growing up in the Midwest, and it relates to me growing up in Missouri in farm country. And it's like, this is where Clark Kent would have grown up. If Clark Kent landed in Missouri instead of Kansas, he grew up, he's grown up in literally the city I'm living in right now. Like that's where he would be. And so like, I love that. Clark Kent is very much my life and like those ideals. And like, I love that. But I think 9 times out of 10, they botched that story, right? And the biggest example of that to me is Man of Steel, which is both the best and the worst of any Superman story I've seen. The Man of Steel trailer remains probably my favorite trailer of all time, of anything, of any piece of medium art or content or anything is my favorite trailer of all time, right? Like the Kevin Costner, Russell Crowe voiceovers left me inspired, right? Like left me just on a high of like, they will, I mean, like you will lead them into the sun, right? Like they will fall, they will stumble, but ultimately you will lead them into the sun, right? Like these like just lifted me up and inspired me, right? And like made me just like want to like climb a freaking mountain and stuff, right? And then you see the actual movie and it's like there in like flashes and bursts, and the first half it's like there a bit more, but like it just squanders it, right? Like it doesn't live up to the promise and potential of that trailer. And I feel like more often than not, when I read a Superman story or watch a Superman movie or a comic or anything, I'm left going like, man, I was really hopeful and it didn't really nail it, right? It didn't really like crush it. And I love Smallville, but A, Smallville went on for like 5 seasons too long. And B, Smallville's awesome and great and fantastic, but it deliberately cut out the Superman side of it. So it's like, well, then how do I like Superman really in conjunction with this? Totally. To me, I found Superman in Captain America. I found Superman in like parts and pieces of Batman, right? Because I always say that Batman is actually the most optimistic of all the superheroes in the DCU. I actually think that Batman is the one who's the most optimistic and the most like idealistic of all the superheroes in the DCU. And so I found it kind of in him and in Captain America, right? And Captain America in particular is one where it's like, I mean, if I was going to get a superhero nickname, it'd probably be Captain America, right? Like I'm the guy again, who's like, when I was a kid, I wanted to be like president and stuff. And like, I wanted to be like, go out there and do it. And like, I literally have a flag in my bedroom, like an American flag in my bedroom, right? Like, it's like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. Right.
Right.
And I love that because Captain America is also to be like, he's so like, I feel like out of all the superheroes, he's the one who has like most to kind of reconcile with the fact that like the cause he fights for and like the ideals he fights for are flawed. Right. And I found that fascinating. Like America, I would say like the American ideals are perfect. America is far from that, right? Like we have the story of America is one of us like constantly making like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, then like 7 steps sideways. And like, it's this constant like push and pull and tug and like everything. And as somebody who has like a degree in political science and like history and like has done lifelong studies of both of these, it's like, I deeply, deeply, deeply on a fundamental level, like you can't, like if you dig into like the deepest, most foundational level of Logan, you find like a love of America, right? But it's also kind of tied around the fact that like I have 5,000 books in my house right now about all of world history, and I understand the flaws, right? I understand the like problems and difficulties with that idea, right? And in the week where it's like, not to get too political here, but like where Trump's chief of staff is like saying like what really caused the Civil War was this. It's like, I think we have to be aware of the pros and cons and that kind of image of America. And I love the fact that Captain America has to reconcile with him, like within him, that kind of ideal and image of America, right? Because he's the same kind of ideals of like truth, justice, and the American way Superman, but then where Superman can just be like, well, I'm also just like kind of a demigod. So like, I don't really have to deal with this problem. I can just do whatever. Captain America has to be like, no, I'm literally like the image of the country, right? Like I am the image of the country to the world because my name is literally Captain America, right? My outfit is like the American flag basically. And so like, he can't really run away from it in the same way. And so like, I always find the stories where he kind of has to wrestle with that really interesting. And I think in all 3 of his movies in the MCU, he does it in different ways, and he has to kind of wrestle with that kind of difficult history of America and like the difficult kind of problems and the growth and everything. And just as that I'm an optimist, and just as that I believe that when you look at the full scope and sweep of American history, you can't help but be left an optimist. You can't help but be left like hopeful about that history. And like, you can't help but look at the scope of American history and the scope of human history really at large and be like, you can't help but be an optimist to them. You can't help but be like wowed by how far we've come, right? In the same way, I think Captain America ultimately views that same way. I also think that he also goes, but we've also made mistakes, and it's okay to acknowledge it, right? Like, you only grow when you acknowledge your mistakes and your failings and your problems, right? And it's like a fundamental like rule to anything, right? Like, you can't fix a problem unless you admit that there is one, right? And so America has problems. America's deeply ingrained into the fabric of the nation problems, right? Like, from literally 150 years before we were a country, our original sin was there embedded into the nation, right? Like, from Jamestown on. And you can't escape that. But you also can acknowledge that we've done immense things, right? Like, the thing I always say, and I said it on the private chats podcast I did with Andrew Taylor, where I went off on like this 30-minute like rant about 20 different things. It's like, you can't, like, we put a man on the moon, right? Like, there's something to be said for that. We put a man on the moon in America. And that's like, I am literally like stunned by that every day. And I'm literally like, that we did that. That's fucking crazy. We walked on that thing in the sky. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I think in that same way, Captain America kind of has that, like, that kind of mischievous glint in his eye, like I do, where it's like, there are huge problems in America. We're not perfect. We're far from it. The world isn't perfect. It's far from it. There's huge problems. There's mass problems. There's injustice. There's inequality. There's the racial strife. There's poverty. There's like all these different problems within the country. There's corruption. But we put a man on the moon, and we've cured diseases, and we've crossed oceans, and we've defeated like evil and like Nazism and like World War II, and we stopped at the South, and we did good as well, right? And so, like, I think I like Superman, yes, to answer your original question, but I found my Superman in like Captain America much more.
Sure. Because like it's interesting that you say that too, because it's like because I was introduced to Captain America later in my life, but like Superman is that for me, like just pretty much everything that you said, because it's like you're living a lie by saying like everything's okay, but it's not really it's not really that you're living a lie. It's that you're trying to embody yourself and be the thing that you want to strive other people to be, like be the better person, rather than like like just being a person, like just being a regular person. Like don't dwell on the sadness, like try to be the inspirational person, be the person who's like walking in like in a battlefield, who's seeing all these dead people or seeing like all these homeless people, and it's like be a smile in their face and give them like a piece of bread or something like that. Be that person.
Be the person you needed when you were young. That's the way I always be the person you needed when you were young, right? Like be the thing that you wanted or you needed when you were like a child, right? And like be that ideal now and strive for that now. And like I think you see that in both Superman and Captain America, right? Like they are, out of all the superheroes, they are that, right? They are this like ideal to strive for, right? And ideal to be at, right? And like it's funny, particularly for Superman, because I came across him much younger than I did Captain America. Like Superman to me is the first superhero I ever remember seeing other than Batman. And he's like this like I think he's like the gateway drug to everybody along with Batman superheroes, is the fact that like Superman to me, and especially hearing like Greg, like again, like his version of like, that's why I always said like, what would Superman do, right? And like that was my like moral compass. And Superman is fascinating because, especially given the context of like the Man of Steel trailer, where it's like you are the ideal to strive for, like to go after all this other stuff, like yada yada yada, bing bang bang. And it's like, for me growing up as a kid, my like heroes, right? Like it would basically, again, they were just like, my heroes were Superman's ideals, like the things he was striving for, right? To like be this sense of like good in the world and to do good always and to strive for that. But it was like, I found that in like weird places, or again, so I found that in like Captain America eventually later on, but I found that in like, to this day, one of my biggest heroes is like Abraham Lincoln, right? And it's again that, because it's that ideal. I see that in Superman is just Abraham Lincoln with a cape and that can fly, and he doesn't have the beard, unfortunately. And so it's like 90s comics, but that's a whole different thing. And a little bit Man of Steel. But it's like he's that kind of like that image of like, yeah, just like strive for it and like be the thing that they can't be yet, right? Like good, like Superman to me, and he's like the de facto leader of the Justice League, whatever. Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. But it's like he's the ideal to strive for, right? And he's not necessarily flawless or perfect, but he's the ideal to strive for, right? Just in that Man of Steel trailer, right? Like they will follow you and they will stumble and they will make mistakes and they will like fall down constantly and it'll be this long process, but eventually they will join you in the sun kind of thing, right? And I look at that and I see like, to me, I heard that trailer and the first thing I literally thought of was just like, that's Abraham Lincoln. That's his entire life and like his like the message and the theme of that life where it's like Abraham Lincoln was 500 years ahead of the American citizenry and like 1860s. He's 5,000 years ahead of them, right? And like the intellectual and like the moral like philosophies he's espousing are so far ahead of the curve, and he understands this, right? And so he slows things down. He does things piecemeal, and he says like he does it in baby steps, right? And he ramps them up. And I think that people now, historians now look at that and be like, they like to throw stones, I think, sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And be like, well, he was this, that, and the other, and he was doing this. And it's like, Abraham Lincoln didn't give a shit about any stuff. What he cared about was bringing us forward step by step by step. And so he laid breadcrumbs basically and said like, well, we can do this and we don't have to necessarily do that. And then we were like, all right, cool. And we took like 2 steps forward, and he goes, oh, now we should do this and maybe not that. And like we kept doing like more steps forward until eventually all of a sudden we turn around and go like, oh shit, our country's fundamentally altered forever from where it was 4 years ago, right? And so it's like, again, going back to the private chats with Andrew Taylor, it's like on that I talked about the Gettysburg Address, because that to me is like this. It's the most important speech given in American history, but I also think it's the most important speech given in Western civilization in the last like 1,000 years, probably. Because what it did is if the Declaration of Independence was a like kind of call to arms and rally and kind of be like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and like all men are created equal and all this other stuff. Like the Gettysburg Address is saying like, hey, that was harder than we thought it was going to be. Right. Turns out way more difficult than we thought it was going to be. This is a fresh start, right? Like this is a new birth of freedom. It says like this is a rechristening of America, right? Like we understand now the full weight and consequences of these actions. So we're saying again, this is our creed. This is our pledge that all men and women are going to be created equal, right? And like we're going forward, right, to the last best hope for democracy, right? Like we understand this weight and the consequences, and this is a new America, is a new freedom in this country, right? And so like Abraham Lincoln, I always like to say, it's funny that we somehow managed to get to Abraham Lincoln from superheroes, but like I joked before to somebody at some point in time that like Abraham Lincoln is Superman and George Washington is Batman. And I said that because Abraham Lincoln is who we want to be. Abraham Lincoln is who we think America is. Honestly. Like who we wish it was kind of thing. George Washington is who we are. Batman is who we are, right? Like we are this flawed kind of self-destructive at times person, right? Like George Washington owned slaves. George Washington did a lot of things that were awful, that are historically are hard to look at and they're hard to focus on, right? And I say this to somebody who revered George Washington as a child. Revered George Washington as a child. And he has the hard realities of being like, this is America. We are Batman. We are George Washington. We are all of the ugly chapters in this country that had great moments too. We are not Superman. America likes to think that we're Superman to the rest of the world. We like to think that we're this like great beacon of everything, but we're not. We're much more flawed and dirty than that. We're much more Batman. It's much more kind of this vigilante, occasionally possibly breaking rules and like breaking bones and taking names, but like doing it for good, sure, but using incredibly rough tactics at times. We're flawed, and we're George Washington, and we're Franklin Roosevelt, and we're like Ronald Reagan or Bill Clinton. Like we're all those people. We're very flawed, but we do great things, kind of thing. But we strive to be Superman, right? We strive to be Abraham Lincoln. We strive to be this kind of like this exceptional ideal that like shouldn't have even happened, right? Like it's just like absurd, right? Like that I said it again on different podcasts, but it's like it's absurd that we were just like dropped Abraham Lincoln. It's absurd that Abraham Lincoln even happened. In the same way, it's like Abraham Lincoln is just a guy that just like fell from the fucking sky from Krypton 2, just landed in the cow pasture of Kentucky. And it's like, hey, in 40 years, I'm gonna do some amazing shit, guys. Just like Clark Kent's dropping from the sky and being like, hey, in a few decades here, I'm gonna be saving some people from planes. And it's like this weird thing. And I think that connection is so like strong there, right? And it's the same way because I think some people, I think this connection runs deeper too, because I think some people look at Abraham Lincoln and go, he's just kind of boring though, right? Like because he is like seemingly too like crazy, like impressive in the same way, like the most common criticism you're going to hear of Superman or Captain America is that like they're too perfect and they're boring and they're plain and they're just like
Boy Scouts and all
exactly. Yeah. And so you have to find deeper, darker things. And like Abraham Lincoln has like this Abraham Lincoln, God, I don't want to make this an Abraham Lincoln podcast, but like it's just I mean, I could do that obviously, but like I have a degree in this, but like to me, he's the most American, like story, but also like maybe the least American story, or like most American story that we wish was the actual story of the country, right? Like he grew up in like fucking a mud house in like Kentucky and like had like an abusive dad, and his mom dies and he gets abandoned like for a year with his sister and like almost starves to death there. And then like his dad comes back and they're like, hey, I have a new wife now. You got a new mom. And it's like this incredibly crazy thing. And he has like loss and like grief on like a scale that's almost unimaginable. Like he loses children and parents and like siblings and friends and like all stuff. And like, but he uses all of that as kind of like fuel, and it just gains like, he doesn't use it as fuel to like rise up a political ladder like some people do. He doesn't use it as fuel to like make more money. He doesn't use it as fuel to like get angry or depressed. He doesn't use it as fuel, and a good point, like Alexander Hamilton does in the play Hamilton, where he becomes like, he has to like get things done. He has to do things now. Like, I don't have enough time, like Alexander Hamilton thing. He uses it as fuel to be more empathetic, to be more understanding, to be more caring, to pull a quote from a Lin-Manuel Miranda like speech he gave, an acceptance speech, like to fill the world with more love, right? Like it's like Abraham Lincoln's more like thing, like to just be more empathetic and like to just be better to each other, but how like what fueled him to do, right? Like all these things and all of like the best Abe Lincoln stories aren't him doing something crazy and epic and amazing. Like he wasn't George Washington. He didn't like charge into the British Army, make the entire army retreat just by himself because he's a psychopath. He's not like Teddy Roosevelt, who's just legitimately a crazy person, like just legitimately a crazy person. He's not Andrew Jackson, who's also a psychopath, but also like also maybe not a great person. Like he's just like all the best Abe Lincoln stories are him doing like just like really simple things, like listening to a like 9-year-old girl like ask for help for her dad who just got like laid off at his job. And it's like all the best Abe Lincoln stories are him like taking time to visit every single wounded soldier in the hospital, even though it's horrific and the scenes in those hospitals and stuff were like unimaginable in the scales of like the horror of the scenes, right? Like in the same way, like all of the best Superman and Clark Kent stories are not of him saving the world from a like nuclear mega explosion from nasty mud man. It's like it's him like stopping to like save a cat from a tree, right? It's him like stopping to like take time to like listen to this child's story and figure out their problems and see what they're doing. Or like it's taking time to like talk to the girl on the ledge and like talk her off, right? And like help her off. Like those are the Superman stories. Those are the best like Abe Lincoln stories. It's stories of them just being like empathetic and caring, right? And so they're not these crazy things. You're never gonna find an Abraham Lincoln story. It's like, out of this, what you 10 Abraham Lincoln facts you won't believe. It's like they're all gonna be like, he talked to this kid and he talked to this like one person needed help, and talked to this guy who was like struggling and was like depressed and just needed somebody to listen. And it didn't matter that Abraham Lincoln was president. He didn't care. He just wanted to make the world better. And more importantly, it was even smaller than that. He just wanted to make this person understand how important they were, right? Like to me, I don't know how big of a fan of Doctor Who you are.
Dabbled, not really that big.
Okay. My favorite line, one of my favorite lines and like favorite kind of quotes about the Doctor Who is he said it to somebody. The name isn't important. But it's a human. It's a regular run of the mill, just average human. And and like they're in the midst of like this crazy fight and duel and moments, like battles happen all around them, and there's like all these like really important people, right? And the person said some variation of like, "Oh, what are you sticking around me for?" Right? Like I'm nobody. I'm not important at all. And the doctor's like on the spot, like turns around and goes like, I've never met one person who wasn't important. I've never met one person who didn't matter. Right? I've never met one person who wasn't extraordinary. Right? And like that to me is the potential power of Superman. And that to me is the power, and like one of the major legacies to me of like Abraham Lincoln is that like Abraham Lincoln and the best moments Clark Kent never met a person that wasn't extraordinary. Never met a person that wasn't like amazing and mind-blowing and important. They're all important. They're all extraordinary, obviously, is the thing that we should obviously recognize in our day-to-day life, but we don't. We don't think like that. Most of us will never go through our lives thinking like that. We just don't. We need these people that are few and far between, whether it's the Doctor and Doctor Who, if you like that show, whether it's Superman and comics, if you like that, whether it's Captain America, who does some variation of this too, if you like that, whether it's any TV show or movie or video game or anything, it's like, or whether it's a historical figure in the middle of the 19th century with a funny hat and a weird name and a beard, just saying like, everybody's important. Everybody is extraordinary. The fact that you exist is extraordinary. You are like nobody else in the universe kind of thing, right? Like you just need those people. And that's what I wish Superman was all of the time. I'll wrap it up there so we don't talk about Abraham Lincoln for an hour, but
going on that topic though, like or in that mindset, like I felt that with Wonder Woman, watching that movie, like 1000%, everything you just said.
It's the most optimistic superhero movie.
Like,
I think.
am I crazy to like want that from like Man of Steel
Nope.
and Batman v Superman?
Nope.
Like, should I expect it to be like this, like a blockbuster movie, or should I expect everything that you're saying? Because I got that out of Wonder Woman, but I didn't get that out of my Superman movies. Ironically,
the bigger problem is I think we were almost promised that out of Man of Steel, and those trailers again are some of the most like inspiring things I've seen.
It's so funny too, because like. You can ask me like on a separate day, and I could tell you like, man, I hate Man of Steel more than I hate Batman v Superman. And that's a crazy thing to say, but like I might
too.
Infuriates me in so many ways.
Man of Steel was the first movie, or one of the first movies I ever remember seeing, going into it and then leaving and being like, I'm disappointed. Like I'm like on like a like visceral level, like I feel let down, and like I was almost like misled. Like again, like. Every one of those trailers were bangers and were like amazing and are dripping and oozing like inspiration and like hope and hope and hope and hope, and they're just like full of hope. Like you can't shake that feeling out of those trailers. And then you get to the movie and it's like this Superman is not the hopeful, like optimistic, inspirational one I was promised. Like he's just not. Like he's really moody and like angry a lot, and like it's okay to have that version of Superman, but like that's not a one I want, and more importantly, that's not one that I thought I was going to get going into that movie, right? Like it would be one thing if going into the movie the trailers were like him brooding and him like kind of being like angry and kind of like melancholy and all these things, and be like, all right, cool, but they weren't. They were very like Zack Snyder almost seemed to like, I don't know if he wanted to do the trailers and then like got talked out. Well, I don't know what happened, but like they're very different stories, right? Like that trailer for Man of Steel is not what the movie is, and that movie is what that trailer is. And it's like I would give me that movie. That would be in the running for being my favorite superhero movie of all time if you gave me that entire movie of that Man of Steel trailer, right? And like I think the closest thing we see is Wonder Woman, which is a fantastic movie and is like this like optimistic, hopeful, idealistic, like just good superhero, right? Like she just wants to do good, and she just wants to be like empathetic, right? And like the big moment in that movie people talk about a lot is like her going over the trenches, right? And like running into the city, and like it's just her. It doesn't matter the danger to herself. It doesn't matter the sacrifice to herself. She just wants to do good, and she just wants to help people, right? Like she just wants to give them an ear to listen to and give them like something to hope for, something to strive for, right? They'll follow you into the sun, and you see that in Wonder Woman. You didn't see that in Man of Steel. I didn't see it in Man of Steel. I didn't see it in Batman v Superman. I genuinely would be surprised, honestly, if I see it in Justice League, because that's not this Man of Steel that's not the Superman we have right now. It's just not. Like the best one we've had is the Christopher Reeve ones.
Yeah. Like, and those were those type of movies. Those were
Yes.
similar to Wonder Woman, and like in so many
Yes.
different ways. And God, this conversation is just raging into me because I feel it. I feel it, dude. Because it's because like you said with those trailers in in Man of Steel, like this the hope and this the inspiration and just
Yep.
you feel something from the trailer. In the movie, I just didn't get that at all. And I remember leaving that theater. And I was with Tony and Alex actually, because we were suits and suits. I was so excited for that movie.
Yeah.
We wore Superman shirts and we wore suits on it, and we were we took pictures of our opening our suits up, so we showed our Superman shirts right under it. So I was hyped for that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And just going away from that movie and just walking away, I was I don't think that was a good movie.
Yeah.
I think I really don't like that movie. And there are a few things in this world now. Cause I'm trying to be live and let live, whatever. But there are a few things in the world now that I'll just let slip by. But you talk about if you bring Bleach, the manga Bleach, some totally separate, or you bring up this modern Superman, you talk to me about that and you tell me he's a great interpretation of something. I get so angry. I get so angry for multiple reasons. It's because if you look at the Batman v Superman trailers, obviously that didn't inspire any fucking thing. They weren't even trying to do the same thing as far as what they did for Man of Steel, as far as presenting Superman as someone who's hopeful and happy and jolly. You can see he's brooding, depressed in those trailers, and it's okay, yeah, this is whatever movie we're gonna get. But the fucking kill him off too in that movie is what really just it drives me crazy because you can't do that anymore. You ruined this character completely. You can't do that anymore because Superman already has an identity crisis with everybody as far as oh, he's just too powerful, oh, he'll just come back to life or whatever. And yeah, now that you pulled that card and obviously he's gonna come back to life from this Justice League and whatever. So it's you can't have that anymore. Brainiac can attack again, and people are oh, but Superman can take him out no matter how. And if he dies, whatever, he'll come back to life. That's the sentiment. So he is fucked. That character is fucked for the rest of the whatever that cinematic universe is even going to be for whatever now. And it infuriates me. It makes me so mad because that graveyard scene where it's sure, a whole bunch of nobodies there. It could have been people there. That could have been the Flash there. That could have been Cyborg there. That could have been Aquaman there. And it's being there at his graveyard and just mourning this person who did everything that they couldn't do and at least try to, even though is that's the reason why I get so upset with that movie.
I want to jump onto it too of the ending of Batman vs Superman 2 because I think they could have nailed that death scene. I think they could have done it and it be pulled off for sure. And I think part of the problem is the fact that the last shot of the dirt rising was stupid. That was such a mistake. Just have him be dead. That's what I said all the time. When I left that theater, I was I hope, and I still kind of hope, even though I know for sure it's not going to happen now.
They have promotional fucking it's based on it. So
when he died, what I said at the time was that I hope we don't see him until Justice League Part 2 and the last act. I want there to be consequence. I don't want him to be in Wonder Woman. I don't want him to be in Aquaman or The Flash or Justice League Part 1 or any of these movies in between. I don't want to see Superman in anything until the back half of Justice League Part 2 when he can come back. That's the only time he's allowed to come back. I want him to be dead and there be consequences. There are consequences if you die in this world and you're going to be gone for years. For years, you were just not going to be there in any of these movies kind of thing. That's what I wanted. Because then that loss would have then it loss would have actually meant something. Then his sacrifice would have mattered in the way that it's you can see it matters to Bruce Wayne, but we as the audience know the truth where it's but he's not really dead, right? And I was if you need to, you can do clever little hints and have him in the background on TV be mysterious figure saves fallen person in Brazil and on the paper and the TV you can show mysterious hero saves cat falling out of a tree. I don't care about that. That's fine, but have him be dead and not shown for years is what I wanted them to do. And instead, it looks like they're gonna have him be dead, have the funeral scene, which is fine, whatever, great, sure, cool, I guess. And then have him be in the very next movie, basically. He's not in Wonder Woman. Great. It's all set 80 years before him anyway.
Right.
The first movie, basically, modern times again, looks like I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be disappointed though, but I wouldn't be shocked if Superman is in the first act of this movie. He's already back in it. In the first third of this movie, the first 20% maybe, he's already back in the movie again, which is mind blowing to me to think that as a possibility that he's already gonna be back basically 30 minutes after he was dead. It's like, oh, the last movie you saw, he was dead. Now he's back, and it's like, what was the point of this even? Like, why even kill him off, right? Like, if you're gonna do something like that, because I remember seeing that happen in the theater, being like, there's no way they're gonna actually kill him though. And then he gets like the thing stuck through. And I'm like, oh, okay, but the next scene he's gonna be like in a hospital bed now, or whatever.
Right,
and then like he's like dead,
right.
and it's like, oh, cool. Because when I saw it, like my first thought was like, they're fucking doing what Marvel never would. They're actually raising stakes. They're actually having consequences for their actions, and people can die. These superheroes are not infallible, and we're gonna take the most powerful superhero in either universe, and we're gonna kill him off as we're building towards something. And then it's like, as Batman says, it's like, we're going to do this for him, right? Like, I was like, holy shit, they're going to literally get rid of Superman in the run of this DCU. Like, they're just not going to have him for any of these movies, and it's all going to be about how his sacrifice inspired Justice League and how, like, his sacrifice, like, made them all come together. It's like, that's incredibly smart and clever and brave and a very risky decision, and I love it.
Like, and every movie would mention Superman in some shape or form, just saying, like, like, literally say, what would Superman do? Like, someone would say that. What
would Superman do? And like, look at the loss that he did, look at the sacrifice, and like that statue that he has in Batman vs Superman, which didn't make any sense, would make sense now. That statue would be earned, right? And then like they have the dirt rise. I'm like, oh, I wish you didn't do that, but it's, I guess all that it's like is like you could be like, maybe it wasn't him come back to life, and then like the minute that movie ends, it's already you see like rumors and reports of like he's gonna be the next one, he's gonna be this and that and that. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
let him be dead. Let him be dead. Let him be dead for years. You don't need Superman. That loss and that sacrifice can be enough. Like, let that be the thing that motivates this entire universe. Because otherwise, why have him be dead? If there's no narrative reason, if there's no like narrative consequences and payoff and meaning behind it, why even do it? That movie could end just as easily without him dying. There's no like he could just kill Doomsday and it's done. And there's no graveyard scene. There's none of that, and then it's just as good. People be like, all right, cool. That was what you insert your feelings about Batman vs Superman here. Doesn't really change, I think, how you feel about it, him being dead too much. So just cut that out if it's not going to matter. But if it's going to matter, put it in there and then make it matter. Make it mean something. Like, have Wonder Woman step up, have Batman step up, have the Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman all step up and take on these new roles and responsibilities because they have to, because there is no Superman. It's a world without him now. That loss has been felt and reverberated around, right? Like, make Justice League feel a bit darker then, right? Make it feel a bit more tragic because there is this heavy loss hanging over you. Make Cyborg standalone movie, make the Flash standalone movie, make the Batman standalone movie all feel a bit more tragic because there is that loss hanging up. They're all being motivated by this now, right? Like, especially Batman standalone movie, I would have loved for that to be like him kind of like, I would have loved for that to be kind of Iron Man 3 in the DC, where his like, him kind of like dealing with like PTSD and kind of the trauma of the loss and like questioning what's he going to do and who is he going to be now, right? Like, what does he have to be in this universe now, right? Like, if Superman's dead, Batman has to be the new Superman. That's just how that works. He has to like kind of rise and like be like, I said earlier, like that I think Batman is the most idealistic character in the universe anyway, but he has to like show that now. He can't hide it. He has to be like, he has to go out there and fight for like this like truth, just in the American way kind of shit. He has to fight and be like for the good and for the people, and has to like be out there, right? Like, I would have loved to seen Bruce try to like deal with those different emotions and deal with the different kind of like ramifications of that loss, and like what does that mean for him and like Diana Pierce, right? And him and that Wonder Woman story. I would have loved to see that, and instead it's like, is Superman gonna be in the first act of the movie? Is he gonna be in the like, when is he gonna come up? It's not a question of like, will he? It's a question of when is he gonna be there? Yeah, like when is he gonna be in the movie? Then he's in one of the trailers, and it's like, what? And he's a ghost, and it's like, is that what he's gonna be? Are you gonna be a ghost like these like flashbacks? Weird, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what is Superman gonna be in this movie? Like, legitimately, like, because if Superman is like evil Superman in this movie, that's such a colossal mess. I would be like stunned. But it's like the thing I've heard the most. It's like the most rumors I've heard of him is gonna be like, he's gonna be like evil Superman now, and he's gonna like turn good. And it's like, I would hate that. That would be the thing where it's like, I would hate that version of that story. For he's like evil. That's like, let him just be good. Let him just be good and let him be hopeful And if you're gonna kill him, let that loss matter, because otherwise, what's the point, right? Like, my biggest criticism of the Marvel movies is that there are no stakes.
Right.
Repeatedly they're given chances to have there be stakes, and then they blow them, right? Like, when in Captain America Civil War, they can't even kill off Rhodey. What is the point?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is this? That's not a civil war if nobody dies. If the worst injury is some guy like broke his leg, it's like he fell off an airplane. Let him, or fell from the sky. Let him have a consequence. Like, at least kill him off. If you're not gonna, like, I walked in the movie, I was terrified Captain America was gonna die. I was like, they're gonna kill off Captain America. They're gonna make like Falcon guy be the new Captain America. It's gonna be it's gonna be this awesome thing. It's gonna be great. There are gonna be consequences. I'm gonna hate it because I like Captain America, but it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. They're gonna be stakes. And then I got in the movie and I'm like, oh shit, what if they kill off Iron Man here? What if they kill off when they got to that final scene in Civil War where it's Captain America, Iron Man, and Bucky all fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that in the trailers and I was like, one of them dies there. One of them is dead at the end of that scene. They're kind of cut away right before it happens. Like, one of them is going to die. I don't know who it's going to be, but one of these three big characters is going to die. And then that movie comes along. We get to that scene and it's brutal. It's intense. It's hard fought. And it's like, oh shit, they're legitimately going to kill one of these three characters and possibly one of these big two of Captain America and Tony Stark. They're going to actually do it. And Rhodey's already dead. Because at that time, I'm thinking in my mind, he's dead. Like, he's dead. So it's like, they already killed him off. They're going to kill one of these three off. Maybe one of the two big ones. It's going to happen. And then we get to that movie. None of them die. Rhodey's not dead. Everybody seems fine now. And it's like, what did we just do? What was the point of this entire movie then, right? Like, we didn't get anywhere. We didn't make any sort of forward progress. Nothing changed, right? The only difference now is that, like, Bucky's frozen. He's in carbonite freezing like Han Solo now. Otherwise, Captain America and Iron Man don't really seem like they hate each other that much anymore. And so it's like, okay, that's kind of whatever, I guess. And it's like, Rhodey's doing he's fine. He's walking with a cane now. And it's like, what was the point? And that's what I'm terrified of that's my biggest fear for Justice League is like, what was the point of everything then? If Superman's back in the first third or the first like half, like, honestly, now that I know that he's pretty much guaranteed to be in the movie, I don't want him to be in until the last like 5 minutes. I want him to like come in at the end of the movie, like at the end of the day, like all the bad guys are here, things look dire, they're getting overwhelmed, and at the last second, Superman like pops in and he's back, and like the movie like basically ends afterwards. Like, he's got like one scene to like say some dialogue, say some words to people, and then the movie's over. I want him to be at the end because at least then there is still gonna be like diminished and not as big, but there'll still be like some sort of like consequences for his death. Because if he's back in the first half, he just wasn't in that movie for a little bit then. And like, there were consequences. He's just like, oh, you missed the first scene or two. It's like, let him be gone. Let that loss be felt. Because like, what is the timeline here for Justice League? It's like, is it a year later? Is it 6 months? Is it 6 days? I have no idea.
No idea.
And so it's like, that could have been fixed if he was just dead for a few movies, and it's just like, oh, years have definitely happened. Like, some sort of timeline has happened between all of these movies, between Justice League Part 1 where he's not in it again. But it's like, if he's back in it, it's like, all right, I guess that was sad when you died. Now you're here again, right? And it's funny too that DC did this when the original, in the comics, Superman dying, the death of Superman was a huge event. Like, it had never been, like, they never killed somebody that big off before. And like, at the time, this is before any comics did those big, like death run kind of things. And so when they cut him off, everybody's like, Superman is dead forever. It was like when they killed Jason Todd off. Didn't know that was going to be fixed later on too. But it's like, that death is final. Jason Todd is dead forever. Superman is dead forever now, right? And there was like that kind of thing to it. And then he came back and everybody hated that. They were like, well, you just faked it then. And then every comic since then is in the same thing. They've killed heroes off, brought them back. Killed heroes off, brought them back. It's like just part and parcel now. Nobody even questions it anymore. And then movies, it's like Marvel is one doing like dumb shit where it's like, nobody's going to die. It's all happy-go-lucky. And then DC's
unless
like,
you're the villain.
yeah, and then DC's like, we're gonna do it. We're going to kill off this character like we did in the comics, but this time we're going to do it right, where he's going to be dead. There are going to be consequences. And then instead, somehow, with the exact same character in the exact same situation, given a second chance, they've blown it again, which is the most like shocking thing to me of all.
I hear you, dude. On that same topic though, like Logan, you seen that movie, right?
What, Justice League?
No, Logan. Sorry, Logan.
Oh, Logan's a masterpiece. Logan's a masterpiece.
Where they actually killed off the character.
Yes, exactly. And God, yes, and like, I guess full spoilers for Logan at this point now, if you haven't seen it, but you should. Logan is so good too because it's like, going in, like within the first like 5 minutes when he like chops off everybody's head in the limousine fight thing, it's like, this is a different superhero story, and like those rules are not going to be paid attention to, right? Like the consequences will matter, right? Like Logan gave me like a piece of the feeling that I had when The Dark Knight came out. To like finally, I guess, talk about a Christopher Nolan movie here at an hour and a half into this podcast. It's like part of what makes The Dark Knight so special to me, and what makes it among my 2 or 3 favorite movies of all time, and I think a legitimate masterpiece of a film in any genre, is the fact that The Dark Knight is terrifying because you never know what's going to happen, right? Like because usually I've seen movies and I've played games and I've watched TV shows and I've read books, and like you understand how they're going to go. Like there's a flow to them. It's like, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, bad things going to happen, it'll work out okay in the end, right? And there's a definite like, and the important characters can't die, nothing can happen to them. And there's a moment in The Dark Knight where they start killing off, where the Joker starts killing off everybody. Mm-hmm. He is killing off everybody, and you think he killed off. Again, it's important to remember. I think now it's easy to forget. For at least a somewhat big chunk of that movie, you think that Joker murdered Commissioner Gordon. Like you think Commissioner Gordon is dead, or not Captain Gordon at the time, but you think he killed James Gordon. You think that he's dead, and then after that happens, it's like, oh shit, Commissioner Gordon's back alive. This is crazy. What's happening? And then the Joker kills Rachel.
Yeah.
And like, I will never forget that moment in my life. That is one of the most like indelible moments. Like, maybe the biggest like indelible, seared in my brain moment from a film ever is that moment when Joker kills Rachel. And I remember sitting in that movie theater at the time. I'm 16 years old in 2008. Sitting in the movie theater with my best friend and my best friend's dad, sitting there being like, I have no idea what's going to happen. And sitting there and literally just being like, I'm terrified. Like I was sitting there being like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then like in my head being like, they're all going to die. Like it's legitimately possible that any one of them could die now. Like I don't know what to expect.
Like
I
even at
don't
the ending,
know what to expect. Yes.
Like
exactly.
Like when he hung the Joker upside down, like I legit thought he was just gonna let him fall, just let him die, because like he hadn't killed anybody at that point. So it's like, will you be his first death? Will you like, you made such a big deal about this in Batman Begins about like you didn't want to kill any people, and like I legitimately thought he was gonna do it. I mean, he didn't do it.
Yes,
but whatever. But still, that thought came into my head, which I would never thought would even happen.
Going further to that, to like the very end, with like Two-Face and the kid and Commissioner and the kid, I was like, I could see them murdering this kid right in front of our eyes. I could see them literally killing this child in front of our eyes, because I don't know because this world is crazy. There are no rules. I don't know what's going to happen. And like, it's the entire second half of that movie, the minute they killed Rachel onwards in that theater, I was terrified. Like I was like, because it went from being like, I understand that like movies give you rules and you understand those rules and you can kind of like go forward in the traditional storytelling of films and traditional stories telling of like any story. It's like, all right, cool, I know what to expect. And then that movie blew it up and was like, they're all like, we've killed the commissioner, we've killed judges, we've killed Rachel, we've killed just a half dozen important figures in the city of Gotham now, and nothing has happened to him. He's just running scot-free. He's blown up a hospital. Like everything's going fine. And they get to that moment with Batman and the Joker, which is the least like, which is the most like depressing victory ever for Batman, which is like, we're just gonna be doing this forever. And it's like, God damn, all right. And he just cackles and laughs. And then you go to the Two-Face thing, and it's like, I thought Two-Face, again, I thought they were legitimately gonna kill Gordon here now. I thought for sure they're gonna kill Gordon. They're maybe gonna kill a kid, and I'm not even convinced Batman gets out of this alive. Like, I don't know what the fuck, because that's like, I don't know what's gonna happen in this Batman movie. In this Batman movie, I have no idea what's gonna happen. It was like it was like the Silence of the Lambs. It's like, I don't know if anybody gets out alive. I don't know if because at that time too, The Dark Knight happened, but it was before we really knew that Christopher Nolan was going to do a trilogy of films.
Right.
And so like at that time, I was like, I could see them. This is the end. This is just how it ends, and everybody's dead, and it's super fucking bleak, and they all die. They're all broken people now. It's like I don't know what's going to happen, right? And so then, like, I thought the Joker might die too. I thought the Joker might live. I thought Batman at different times in that movie might die. I thought Batman, like, it's another point to remember too is that like the two boats scene in The Dark Knight and how masterfully that is done and how much you are certain watching that scene that one of them is going to blow up. Like, you know, one of them is going to blow up because that's that world now. Because Joker has broken everything. Because Chris Nolan has broken everything in the movie, where it's just like there are no rules. We will just blow a bunch of civilians up and we will do it. And just, you can't even question that, right? And instead, he used that to show like ultimately the inner like good in people, right? And it's like one of the few like hopeful and like inspired moments of movie of a very bleak movie. But it's like people are good. It's a kind of really nice moment. But
then immediately go to Two-Face.
Yeah, and
when you had someone who was that hope, and then just like got turned to evil right after that.
But the fact that that's another great point. They killed Two-Face.
Yeah,
Two-Face died in that movie, right? Like, it's out of all of the Batman movies, how many villains actually die, right? And it's like Two-Face, the Joker in the '89 Batman movie. Bane is dead, I think, but that's also kind of that's a whole other topic, Dark Knight Rises. But it's like you didn't expect what I thought was going to happen was when Joker got introduced, and then Two-Face gets introduced. It's like, oh, Two-Face is the bad guy in the next movie. I was like, they're teasing this for like Two-Face to be the big bad in the next movie because he's like the B character here. So he'll be the next one. And instead, fucking, he's murdering guys in the car, flipping cars over, killing people. It's like, and then he's just dead. And Two-Face is dead. And it's like, they just murdered Harvey Dent. He doesn't get his own story. He doesn't get his own standalone thing. He just straight up dead. And it's like that, the kind of like the visceral fear that accompanies The Dark Knight to this day still. Like, you just see like when that kind of wave of killings happens, like I just tighten up and go, and I think back to that moment of just being like, what, like in that theater, clutching my seat being like, what is going to happen? I have no idea. And it was such a brilliant, brilliant film by Chris Nolan to do that. And just like the insult fear of like, there are no rules and everybody's on the board. We murdered Rachel. We killed her. There's no hope for Bruce kind of thing. It's like, Jesus, like that movie just instills a sense of just kind of like chaos better than any other superhero movie.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna watch it after we're done talking here.
It's so good.
I guess we'll end this off with like how do you think Infinity War will turn out? Do you think it's gonna be like another one of those cookie cutter movies? This conversation that we're having now, like, don't you think like maybe they should like try to like kill off Iron Man? Honestly, like Robert Downey Jr. is pretty much done with that role. They're probably not gonna make any more movies. And being the person who actually started this whole thing, to have it end with him as well as dying, like it's kind of hopeful to think of Marvel will actually do it, but like, you know,
I mean, honestly, what I think is going to happen is I think they're going to kill a bunch of. I think it might be like Days of Future Past. I think that might kill a lot of them off. Actually, I think they might kill a lot of the heroes off. The problem and the worry I have is that like I think there will be some sort of like reset thing. Like they'll be in this like giant war with Thanos, and like people will die, and there'll be consequences. Their death will be like final, but then and they'll be in like part one, and then like in part two, things will get worse, and it'll be like a ever like smaller band of heroes left, and then they'll like somehow they will win or whatever, and then it'll like reset everything, and they're all back alive. And what I think if they're gonna do that, which I think they probably will. What I would honestly love to see them do, and it'd be a clever way to kind of end that era of the movies, is to reset everything back to like Iron Man 1 time. So like just everything goes back like a decade. And so like Iron Man, Captain America, everything didn't happen. And this is like it's like a refresh kind of thing. If they're going to do that, obviously I would love them just to kill people off.
Right.
Just straight up like, it's going to sound bad. Tony Stark needs to die in this universe.
It seems like
because
it, yeah.
because A, Robert Downey Jr. has been here too long. I love Tony Stark, and Robert Downey Jr. is fantastic. I love his interpretation of that character because he is Tony Stark at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that, like I said at the very beginning of this, Iron Man 3 was a perfect farewell for him. That's where he should have left, because since Iron Man 3, I have increasingly not liked Tony Stark, and I have not liked Iron Man really. And like every movie since then, I've liked him less and less and less. Because I think the turns they've taken with his character don't reflect the character I saw in 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular 3. I think 3 was such an awesome like fulfillment of his story. That's where his story should have ended. He'd kind of come full circle and like walked away from that life and like blown up all of his suits and everything. And then it's like for him to get dragged back in, it's like Tony Stark as a character seems angry. Now he seems like bitter. He seems upset. And it's like, this is not what I wanted for you. This is not where I thought we were going with your story, right? Like you're almost the bad guy here in a lot of these cases. And it's like you literally basically are the bad guy in Age of Ultron. You caused everything that happened. It's all your fault. Yeah. And so it's like, and then in Civil War, it's kind of, it's like, this is not the character that I loved in 1, 2, and 3. And like in every iteration I've seen since then, I just like him less and less and less. So it's like, I would love for him to get a moment of redemption in Infinity War, and to kind of bring it back and to know that it's going to end, right? Like I very much so want Infinity War to be an end on this era of Marvel movies, right? Like I want Iron Man story to be done. I want Captain America's story to be done. I want, really, those are the two most important characters. Everybody knows I don't really give a shit about what happens to them, but I want their stories to be done. And I want them to be done well. Whether that means they have to die, whether that means it gets like reset, I don't know what that means, but I want Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans have earned the right for those two characters to get fitting farewells in the same way that like Hugh Jackman did for Wolverine, that like Christian Bale did for Batman, although that one was hit or miss. Like they've earned the right for these characters to kind of get their own send-offs and get kind of a farewell the right way, right? And like,
yes,
I think I think a lot of heroes are going to die in Infinity War. I am far less confident it's going to be final. And honestly, if I had to choose, I still think it's more likely they kill Captain America. I still think it's more likely they kill Captain America off. Just because, to me, looking at it from like a Marvel like marketing machine thing, there's like a line of succession for Captain America, right? Whereas Captain America dies, you have Bucky and you have like Falcon and you've like, yeah, you have all these people who can like kind of step up into the role, right? Like, whereas I feel like if Iron Man dies, you basically have to recast Tony Stark. You have to just have a new Tony Stark now. Like you can't, like nobody's going to replace Iron Man because we haven't set that up yet. There's just nobody there. And so it's like, I think if they're going to kill one of them off, I think it's going to be Captain America, which makes me sad. Also, I think I'm particularly sad by that because going back to like Batman v Superman and Man of Steel and Superman's death, I think it would have been incredibly sad. It would have broken my heart. But if Captain America dies in Civil War, if he dies in that movie, and then the rest of the films are like the repercussions of that loss, which is what I thought they were going to do. With that, like his death is reverberated throughout that entire universe now, and like you feel it, and it has to be like this like call to arms for everybody around to come together to kind of realize that they've gone astray, right? And like it would have been this big moment in the universe, like all that almost would have been like a reset of things. And instead we didn't get that. We got this like the nonsense ending that we got. And so now I think if you do kill him off, either one of these characters, I almost feel like you have to kill him off in part 1. Like these losses have to matter. And if you kill him off in the last like 15 minutes of part 2, that's a huge loss. It's a big loss, but there are no consequences of that in the sense that like there are no movies afterwards, right? Like, I mean, and we don't really think there will be anyway involving those characters in a large sense. And so I want them to die.
Real quick, was Captain America 3 disappointing to you for like that trilogy for that character?
Yes, for that trilogy for that character, yes. I like Captain America 3. I like Civil War fine. It's easily my least favorite Captain America movie because I think it was I think it was the least Captain in the same. I think it was the one that was the least in the Captain America like mode of movies where it was. This one felt the most Marvel. And this one felt like it felt the least kind of special in the sense that like there were no real consequences, right? Whereas the other two had very significant consequences. This one was just kind of like all this bad stuff happened and then nothing really happened. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Civil War was disappointing just because again, going back to it, I think it would have been an awesome end cap to that to a trilogy of movies if he dies at the end of it, right? Or even if like Tony Stark died, but if one of them like died at the end of that, if at the end of Captain America 3, this is a trilogy that is built into something and then it happens, and either Captain America's dead or Tony Stark's dead, but like a huge event has happened and instead of just kind of like you have one happens, you have two happen, and then like three just kind of whimpers out, and like it just like blows the steam that those movies were building towards. And that's why I'm disappointed by Captain America 3. I'm definitely not, it's not in my top 3 or 4 or 5 favorite Marvel movies. Because I feel like he didn't capture that same sort of melancholic tone and tragic nature of the other two and nail it like they did.
It's weird because like Iron Man 2 gets a lot of shit as far as like being like, oh, it was just like this is a movie just to set up the Avengers or whatever. But like, you know, that movie pretty much was like the same thing.
That was Avengers 3.
Yeah.
That was Avengers 3. It was not Captain America 3. That was an Avengers 3 movie, which is fine, which is great. As an Avengers movie, I would honestly have liked that way more, but it was supposed to be Captain America 3, and it wasn't that. In the same way, honestly, it's easy to forget Batman v Superman is technically Man of Steel 2.
Yeah.
But it's not, right? And so like
it's totally not.
But I would have loved to have seen them potentially fix the problem, because there's quite a bit of good in Man of Steel that they could have like built off of. And then they didn't, and they went in the opposite direction. It's like I would have loved to have seen a Man of Steel 2 to get more time with Henry Cavill, to invest in that character more, so that if he does die, it matters even more.
The fucking repercussions of killing Zod should have weighed heavily on him. He should have been like, I never killed a man before, or something like that. Something should have happened after that.
It should have been like Iron Man 3. It should have been like he has like PTSD and like flashbacks and nightmares and all this stuff. And like we're getting more time with like him and like Lois Lane to like flesh out that relationship point. So like the important like role she has in kind of helping him out of that dark time in his life. And I would have loved honestly for Man of Steel 2 to have like some kid like Iron Man 3 did that kind of like shows him the good again, right? And that like shows him like what he means. And instead they were just like
flashback of his father.
Yeah, and instead we get like this weird nonsense. And also, can we, for just on a side note for a second, I really don't like Jonathan Kent's portrayal too much in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman.
It's a complete contradiction for everything that Superman is.
Yeah, like they basically made, I don't know, they made John Kent like, I don't know, man, like the exact opposite of what I always envisioned that character to be, right? Like,
yeah,
I always envisioned if either John Kent or Superman's like actual dad on Krypton was going to be like the like kind of isolationist, like hide yourself from the world kind of thing, it would be the guy from Krypton.
Yeah,
the guy on Earth is the guy who should have been like, you have with great power comes great responsibility. Should have been the guy saying that, like, with like this immense power, you can do amazing things in the world, right? You can do great things in the world. And then instead we get like this guy who's like, this John Kent's like a freaking Trump supporter over here, probably. Like this guy's no good. I don't want this guy. I don't want this guy handling Superman either. Like he's John Kent. What's going on with you, man? Why are you so angry? Why are you so scared? Why are you so like? What are you doing here? Like you're no good. Like, and it's such a shame too, because like when I first saw it, they had Kevin Costner be his dad. Is like, this is going to be awesome, right? Like, if anybody can give like an inspiring pep talk to their kid, it is Kevin Costner. Have you seen Field of Dreams? Come on, guys, we're gonna nail it here. And instead, it's like,
nah, you should let those kids on the bus die.
Yeah,
what?
Let the kids on the bus die. I'm like, what did you just say, John Kent? Like, what? Like, and especially because like it'd be one thing if he was like, man, okay, like it was worth it, but like you gotta be more careful. And it's like if you could have literally just said that, okay, that was the right thing to do, but you have to be more careful. And I've been like, okay, cool, that makes sense. But instead, it's like, you should have let them all drown in front of your eyes. And it's like, he's a 9-year-old kid. He's going to turn into like a serial killer if you tell him that. And it's like, then, I mean, obviously like the tornado thing, but it's like, look, if you want to die, Jonathan Kent, that's fine. But it's like, you could, like, he's Superman. He's literally like you blink your eye and he's already got your back and you're safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and nobody would know because literally blink of an eye. He's Superman. He can do whatever he wants. And so it's like that's a weird, or even just like have him run out there and like cover you up with his back because again he's Superman. And so it's like it's a weird choice to have just like their handling of Jonathan Kent is one of my biggest problems with Man of Steel, and was an early red flag in that movie watching it where I was like something's not right. Something's not where like the Kryptonian parents are like way more chill than Jonathan Kent is. And it's like, and honestly, even Martha, I don't love in Man of Steel because even she's kind of like this weird, like, you got to be careful. You can't save people. They're all out to get you. They're all to like turn you on. And it's like, based on what evidence? What are we seeing to suggest that the world is this awful that we can't have, you know what I mean? Like, he keeps saving people. They seem pretty okay with it, actually. They seem pretty positive on it. The fact that you just saved my life. I hate you now. You're an alien monster. It's like, no, they're going to be like, hey, thank you. That was cool of you. I appreciate that. I am now alive. You saved my kids. It's like, why are his parents so like uptight about this? Like, even in Batman v Superman, Martha is still weird about her son being a superhero. She's still like, you should quit. You should quit. And it's like, why would he do that now? He's 35 now. He saved millions of people. Why would he quit? Based off what? Clearly, they built a statue off of him, Martha. They enjoy him around. It's okay. Like, it's like, why are his parents so like against him helping people? And that's like, tonally, it doesn't make any sense because, like, and to me, Superman is the way he is, not because he like has his powers, but because of that, like, the Midwestern values, right? Like instilled in him by Jonathan and Martha Kent. And so it's like to see them both be like against him doing what he ultimately does. It's like, where did you learn to do, like, what? Like, they're the people that should have taught you this. And so it's like for them to be against it, such a weird, like, you had like a shitty background. You had a shitty parents, you had a shitty family. Nothing seemed good about it. Like in Man of Steel, we have no, like, legitimately think about that movie. We have no instances where Jonathan or Martha Kent are really like encouraging him in any way. It's always them being like, yeah, more careful. No, bad. Especially Jonathan. It's always him being like, don't use powers, don't help people, don't save people, don't do good. It's like, what is this? Like, who is this family? This is not the Kents. This is not the Kents from like Christopher Reeve movies or the Superman Return movies or like the animated series or American. Like, who are these people? These are not my Kents. This is not my Superman origin story. And so that was super disappointing. That's what I don't like. That's my biggest problem with those movies.
Yeah. Like I remember like the day Batman v Superman came out. Like, no, I saw the opening day. Like, I think the like reviews came out like a week before.
Yeah, I think so.
And like, yeah, and like I was so checked out on that movie because like how disappointed I was in Man of Steel that I was like, this spoil it for me. It's like I just don't care. I literally just don't care.
Yeah.
And then I went to the movie because like I'm obviously going to see that movie, and obviously I'm going to see Justice League because I still have hope.
I'm very excited for Justice League.
Yeah, hopefully it's still good. Like Wonder Woman was amazing, so like hopefully this will like raise it up for me. But like, yeah, I might just spoil it for myself again, just to know when I go in because like I said, Man of Steel. You just asked me on the right day, and I can tell you that's like that one is just like something that's like this bubbles up inside me, like how I just like how they portrayed that character. One of my favorite characters, even. So, like.
And because it's like, I mean, we mentioned it earlier at the very beginning of this, where it's like Suicide Squad is a bad movie, but it's like I don't think nobody really cares in the sense that it's like none of those characters really matter. I think it's fair to say, and none of them are Batman or Wonder Woman or Superman or like Iron Man or Captain America, but even those characters, I mean, nobody cared about Iron Man 10 years ago, but like none of them are like these big, huge characters. They're all just like Harley Quinn's the biggest and she's a sidekick. And so it's like, all right, the movie's bad. Doesn't really mean anything to me. Man of Steel was like, that's just a disappointment. It's like you had, especially for me is like, as I talked about earlier, where it's like, I have such a like, I feel like the best way I could sum up my relationship with Superman is that like I want to love him. I think that's the key. Is like I want to love Superman more than I do. I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to be like Greg or to be like you. It sounds like when be like I love Superman. I love his ideals. I always ask myself, what would Superman do? But I don't because there haven't been a lot of good interpretations of this character, right? And like I was so confident that Man of Steel would fix that. Based on the trailers, I was like, they get it. They get what this character can be, who he can be, what he can mean to people, right? Like they get what he can mean to people. And instead they didn't do it. They didn't do his family right. They didn't do his background right. They didn't do him right. They didn't do the themes he cares about right. And it's like, man, that one just like years later still just kind of gets me. And it's like, it is funny, at least on this side, where it's like Man of Steel was one of the first times where ever like the movie gets done, the lights come back on, and it's again, it's a packed theater because it's opening weekend. And I look around and everyone just kind of goes like, huh. Like literally some guy in the front, like there's some guy in the front row in a Superman outfit, like got up and just looked around and went like, that was a movie? And just like got out and I was like, that's not a good sign. Like we all walked in and we're so excited. And then like the guy's literally dressed like Superman. He just kind of like, huh, well, they went that way, I guess. And then just kind of like, it was just people like Batman v Superman. I like Batman v Superman. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody really loves Man of Steel. Just because it's like
that's the thing, dude. Like, oh
it's just
my
like
God.
Not the movie that we were promised, right? Like,
yeah.
Whereas Batman v Superman, for better or worse, is largely what you thought you were going to get. I think it's like this kind of like cartoony, comic-y, like silly, kind of campy movie. It's like the trailers showed that movie, right? Whereas Man of Steel is like, this isn't what I was. I mean, for lack of a word, promised. Basically, this is not what I was shown. And so it was like, I got up and be like, what was it? I'm like, that's a movie where it's like, every now and again, I'd be like, I want to watch it again to get like a fresh eye on it and to like view it better. But I just think that it's like, I don't know. Like, I think the more I think about Man of Steel, the more I'm just kind of like, man, I really wish they had almost not even done it at the point where it's just like, why? Because it's such a like mess. And again, it's that thing of like, everything is technically is done really well. There's no like technical flaws in it. It's just like you didn't get the character, I don't think. Like it's that thing for me where it's like Man of Steel seems like it was made by somebody who got a 15-second elevator pitch on Superman where he was like, he's this all-powerful superhero and he's like a god almost, and he can do like anything, he can go anywhere and do like amazing stuff. And it's like they left out all of the stuff that makes him actually special, like his heart and the soul of the character. And like they didn't have any of that really. And it's like, what are we doing with him, right? And so if, again, going back to it, my biggest problems with, like my biggest worries with Justice League are Superman related. Because Ben Affleck as Batman was awesome.
Yeah.
Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is phenomenal. Flash, I think the Flash looks funny in the trailers. I do. I am one of the people who thinks he looks funny in the trailers. I'm at least encouraged by him. Cyborg, I mean, we haven't really seen almost literally anything of him, but I love Cyborg from Teen Titans, so I'm going to give him a chance. Jason Momoa as Aquaman, okay, that's a concern too. But like, the biggest question mark is still, what is Superman in this universe? What does he mean to people, right? Like, I still don't know. 2-3 movies on now, like I don't know what he really means, because it doesn't seem like, I guess my biggest problem with Superman's death and when it happened is that like Superman wasn't a fully defined person yet, even in his own eyes. Like even he in both of his movies was questioning who he was and what he should be and everything. And so it's like for him to then die, it's like I don't really know who he is. Like I don't know who, because he doesn't know. In that movie, when the Capitol blows up around, like literally with him in it, and he's like, should I be me? Like, is it even worth it? And it's like, dude, we're pretty far into this movie now. You already had a movie before this to figure this out. Like, you've been Superman for a few years. You got to nail this shit down now. Like, you get like, and then he's dead within like an hour, and it's like, I don't know who he is. Like, and then like after that and before he dies, he's like stuff with Lex Luthor, where it's like, don't be Superman. He's like, okay, I guess I won't. I'll just sit here and like let you just do bad stuff. And it's like, who is this guy? Like, who is he? Like, who is this character? What does he mean to these people? Right. And it's like,
yeah,
it's like easy to, like going in. I thought the big thing for Batman and Superman was going to be like, oh, he's an alien. I don't like him. But like, honestly, I'm on Batman's side that Superman sucks, because like Superman doesn't even know what he is. Like, who is this guy? And Superman's like, I don't know. I fly a lot. And it's like, Batman's like, okay, well, are you a good person? And he's like, I don't know, man. Any given day, I'm pretty moody, and it's like this is a concern when you're like an atomic bomb. Can you try to nail it down more, Superman? Here, just like figure out what you're doing here. And he's like, I'm gonna go over here and die now. And it's like, okay, I guess that's cool with me. I need more information from you here. And it's like, I think Zack Snyder's in particular's like inability to fully define the character is the big black mark, obviously, in the DCU. It's obviously the big like black mark and the black cloud hanging over
like
Justice League. Like, who is he?
Like,
who is he?
Think about Justice League. Like, if I had like no context with Superman, I think like what you see from those trailers is like, oh, this is gonna be like a fun movie.
Yep.
But like this elephant in the room that is Superman.
Mm-hmm.
That everyone knows from the end of Batman v Superman is like, oh, he's probably alive. He's probably gonna be in this movie, and it's like it. And you're right, Logan. It's like where they place him in that movie is what makes that movie either good or a complete piece of shit. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my god, I'm. Because I was looking at this trailer. It's like this trailer is fun. It's like, why can't I get excited for this movie? Like I'm thinking to myself. I've been thinking about this for like months now. It's like, why can't I get excited for this movie? Like, because it looks fun. It looks great. It looks okay for what it's trying to be, and it looks like a fun movie. But like, it's because of this Superman thing. Mm-hmm. It really is that. Like I just that just popped in my head. Like for real, it's like, and it's really just that.
Can you imagine even imagine if they waited one movie to kill Superman off. Like, imagine instead of doing it in Batman v Superman, they waited a movie and cut him off at the end of Justice League now. And how much of a difference that might even make. Could have that one extra movie and have him interact with people, and then like what that death would mean, and have him gain, because just have more time to be a fully developed person and character, right? And so it's like, because like I just said, like, I am not sure who Superman is in this world and what he means. Like, I don't know what he means. I think I don't know. I think I know what they want me to, like, for him to mean, but like even that is pretty nebulous, because like the thing for me is that Superman's death matters to Bruce Wayne. That makes sense. They had a very close connection by that movie. They were very kind of intense, tumultuous bond. Wonder Woman, it's even less. It's pretty tenuous, but okay, she was there. It's felt. Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman, they have never met Superman. They've never. They have probably heard of him, but Aquaman just seems like he's just a dude fishing all the time. So maybe he hasn't. I have no idea. And so it's like, all right, their connections are like just the average person would feel. And so it's like that. I'm heartbroken that this big hero is dead, but also like, is he? Because then you get around the problem of like, Man of Steel ends with him knocking down an entire city. Like, he just knocks an entire city, Metropolis, down, and it's like, yeah, he did that to save it, but it's also like that was a weird way to go, and like the Zod neck snap and like all this stuff, and it's like, it seems like the problem with Superman in the DCU is that they both want him to be this like inspirational, like hope-fueled figure without doing any of the things that would make that work. So they want to be like inspirational and hopeful, but also very angsty and moody and emotional and melancholy. And they like then like turn around and be like, and everybody loves him, and it's like, but why? But why? Like the giant statue, like the symbol of like hope, and it's like, but I haven't seen that. I'm legitimately now stopping and trying to like think back on Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, and I can't think of a single time whereas Superman, he stopped and helped an individual person, like one person, and just helped them. It's always him doing these great big things like we talked about earlier when I was talking about Abraham Lincoln. It's like, but where was he helping just one person? Who wasn't doing a great work, right? He was just helping he's talking one person off a ledge, talking to one person, period, right? Like, I mean, you get to Batman v Superman, and he's like worshipped now, and he's a god, but it's like, but he's not helping individual people. He's just doing these big, giant, broad themes. Like, why do the people love him? Why do they think he matters? Why is he like a person of hope? Because all I've seen him do is break a lot of things and fight a lot of people.
Right.
And that's awesome. It's great. And I think you're cool for that. But that doesn't give me hope. That doesn't inspire me. Like, why is he a message of hope in this universe? And you have like him talking to Lois Lane in the booth. What's it symbol mean? It means hope on my planet. Great. Lois Lane heard that. Nobody else on your planet did. And even then, okay, but if I'm an average Joe, I'm going to think it's an S. That's what it looks like here. I'm not going to think he's wearing a suit that means hope. That's pretty deep when you think about it. It's like, no, why is he full of hope, DC? You keep telling me that he is. You keep telling me that he's hope and inspiration and optimism and belief. But then, when I see him interact with people, he's none of those things. He's questioning himself, and he's full of doubt, and he's like maybe regretting his life, and he's like maybe like not even want to do this, right? And he constantly questions if he should even be Superman, if it's even worth it. And then he's also not interacting with individual people, or if he is, it's like a bad experience, right? And so it's like, who is he? Why do the people love him? Why are they building statues of him? Why are they worshiping him? Like, who is this character? What does he mean? Why is he full of hope if he is? Because he say he is in the trailers and the movies, he's not that. And so, like, but I think even like Batman v Superman trailers are like, hope. He's gonna show it now. And it's like you get the movie and it's like he's even more moody now, if anything. Like, who is he? Is like the thing I keep coming back to. And for Superman, it's like it shouldn't be hard to make Superman be an image. Like the one thing I think it's easy to do for Superman is make him be ideal of hope, to make him be a messenger of hope and positivity and optimism. That can be boring, maybe like Superman Returns is, but nobody would ever say that the Superman Returns isn't one full of hope.
Right.
Like that movie might be boring, the movie might be plain, it might be bland, but it is a movie that at the very least gets that simple message of Superman right. Like that is Superman who is very much about like hope and helping others. And there are scenes in that movie that I remember vividly of Superman talking to and helping individual people there. So why in Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel is that not the case? Why is he there incapable of helping them as Superman and doing that? You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be that hard to know this character in that mold, and the most simple and basic mold.
I mean, like, because, like, when you think about, like, when Man of Steel was, like pitched and stuff like that, it was pitched as, like, oh, what would it be if, like, Superman actually, like, existed in the real world type of thing. So it's like, oh, like, the obvious, like, thing would be, like, the government will be completely against him. Like, anything he says is probably a lie. Like, we can't bring our trust to this, like, foreign alien person. And it's like, sure, like, that's racist or whatever, but, like, that's totally what they would do.
Sure.
And, like, they kind of explored that, but not really.
Yeah.
And it's like,
go ahead, man, I'm sorry. That's the problem with, I think, everything with Superman and the DC was that, like, they kind of explored that, and then they didn't, though. Like, it's like they started a lot, they tease a lot of things, but then they don't nail really any of them for Man of Steel, right? It's like they have these really good kind of like ideas, like what if it's like this government thing, and what if it's like you have to be careful, and what if he's also kind of hopeful, and what if he's also kind of like angsty, what if he's like a Nolan Superman story? It's like all different things, but it's like, but you're just saying these things, you're not doing these things. Like you're just like basically putting like back of the box, like he's angry and hopeful and cool and angsty and he looks good and he's just an average guy and he's like a god, and it's like, well, these are a lot of different things. And what is he? Who is Superman? Who is Clark Kent? I have no idea. I think he's a good guy, but I'm not sure because
not Clark Kent. Like, in any way, shape, or form.
Because he's not sure. And that's the thing too, I think, is that like especially for Man of Steel, for a movie that spent so much time focusing on Clark Kent in the movie, because he's not Superman for a lot of it.
Yeah.
They somehow didn't give me a lot of information about Clark Kent.
Right.
Like, it's like I walked into Superman, Man of Steel, and I'm like, I don't know who Clark Kent is. Like, and we spent half that movie before he's ever Superman. And it's like, but who is this person? Like, who is he? And it wasn't helped by the fact that the like Jonathan Kent and Kryptonian parents thing are like these like almost like competing ideologies, but like where the rules are like reversed almost from what they should be. It doesn't help that like everybody almost seems to be telling Clark Kent throughout all of Man of Steel, with the exception of his dad, that he shouldn't do what he's doing. So then like he constantly feels like he's doing the wrong thing, even though we as the audience know that this is clearly the right course of action to take. But all of the characters in the movie keep saying, don't do this, except for the dead dad he has. And so it's like this weird thing of like, he almost seems to be like continuously punished for going down the right course of action, which then, as a consequence of that, seems to be like in both Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, he keeps thinking, is this the right thing to do? Because all of my life, from everybody on this planet, I've been told it's not, right? Because like there's a great moment, I think it's in Man of Steel, I might be Batman vs Superman, but I think it's Man of Steel, where he visits a like priest in a church.
Man of Steel.
Yeah, Man of Steel, right? And it's like, and when that happened, yeah, but when that happened, I was like, oh, here's gonna be that like Uncle Ben moment. Here's gonna be that Jonathan Kent moment that I thought I was gonna get. Like, it's gonna be like this awesome, like he's gonna say, you can be a symbol of good, right? Like, it's such an easy, obvious layup. Like, it's such an easy moment to do this in. And instead, even the priest is kind of like, I don't know, man, maybe you shouldn't do it. And it's like, what is this world? Who are these characters? What is like, why are they so against Superman? Like, why? Like, everybody is saying like, I don't know, man, maybe you shouldn't do it. And it's like, why would that be their reaction to this? Especially like, that priest is shitty at his job. Like, hey, you can do an incredible amount of good in the world. Nah, don't do that, man. It's like they have like repeatedly throughout that movie these moments where it's like the music like starts to swell. They have like these like that happens basically in every single Jonathan Kent scene, like one or two scenes with Martha Kent, then the scene with the priest. I think a scene with Lois Lane too, where it's all like the music swells, like it's a big moment. It's like here it's gonna be like the crystallization of why he should be Superman, the crystallization of who he is and what he's striving for and what his ideals are. And like the big moment happens, and then they go, don't do it. Big moment happens, and they go, don't be him. Big moment happens, and they go, hide. Big moment happens, and they go, run, leave, don't save us. It's like almost repeatedly, and it's like, why are they so nihilistic in this movie? Why are they so like against this message of like hope and like inspiration? Like repeat from almost every character movie, like saying don't do this. And it's like, I don't understand Man of Steel's like fundamental misunderstanding of what Superman is, who he is, and what he can be, right? It's like they seem to just think like, oh, he's a hero. Man, like people didn't like The Dark Knight, we have to make it like that kind of thing. And it's like, no, they're different people, they're different characters in different cities and different worlds, right? Like Metropolis isn't Gotham and Gotham isn't Metropolis, right? Like Batman isn't the hero of Metropolis and Superman isn't the hero of Gotham because they're different places and the different worlds and the different themes that they're investigating and they're like digging around in. A and B, I'd also argue that Batman has a more supportive and caring cast of characters around him than Superman does.
He totally does.
Batman has a more supportive cast of characters in Gotham City than Superman does in Man of Steel in both Middle of America and Metropolis. Because Batman repeatedly in all three of the Christopher Nolan movies has Alfred with, like, to me, the iconic line of, you haven't given up on me. Never. Never, right? And like every time he says that, it becomes more and more powerful, more and more impactful, because that's how that works. That's how like a father-son bond works. You continue to say, never. I never give up on you. I always believe you can do this. I always believe you are capable of good things, of being a force for good in the world, right? But that is somehow not said in Superman's story, where they're the father figure, Jonathan Kent, instead says, "You still give up on me? Yes, I have given up on you. You should stop doing this. I do not believe in this. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in you doing this. Don't do it." Right? And so it's like, that's such a disconnect where it's like Batman is given support and he's given like this belief of like, yes, I believe in your abilities to do good. And Superman is told, I don't know, man. I don't think people can trust you. I don't think people will welcome you. I don't think people will accept you. Based off what? Yeah. When in the history of human events have people been given help and given aid and been like, has good things happen and then they've been like, man, fuck you. It's like, that's not how people work. If you give us help and do some good, it's like, cool, thank you. And that might be all we say, or we can be like, hey, you're really cool and awesome and you're doing good things. We want to give you shout outs and we want to give you recognition, right? Like, why is this world so like dark and depressed and like devoid of hope, or people even like wishing to hope, right? Like that, like, I made the joke earlier, and I'm not going to kind of run with the theme a little bit, where it's like, I said Jonathan Kent would be a Trump supporter, and I want to double down on that just in the sense of like, the people who voted for Donald Trump to me are people who seem like feel like they have no hope, right? They feel like they had no hope, and so they did this crazy thing. And in the same way, the cast of characters in Man of Steel feel like that. They feel like they're all just like devoid of hope, and there's no hope. There's nothing to like wish for or strive for. There's just nothing. It's all gone. And it's like the people in Gotham City, the worst place in the world, the most crime-ridden, ravaged, wrecked, unequal, poverty-stricken place in the world, can all band together and hope over this masked vigilante in black beating up dudes. But in Metropolis, this place where it's never nighttime, it's always sunny, it's always great, right? It's always things looking up and things looking positive. It's like, for some reason, their hope is gone. Hope is devoid in this world. It's a world full of Trump supporters. It's a world full of like abandoned coal factories, apparently, and people who feel like they haven't gotten a fair shake. And it's like, this is not that world. This Metropolis is not Pittsburgh, and it's not the Rust Belt, and it's not this. Why is there no hope here?
Right.
I've been given nothing to think there isn't any hope here. It looks pretty good in Metropolis, honestly. It looks like things are going pretty well for them, honestly. Why, like, and like on the farm in like Kansas, Missouri, the Midwest. I live in the Midwest. These people are hopeful. These people are pretty optimistic. These people believe in each other here. They don't cast stones to just like people doing good. It's like, what is this? What is this? I mean, I say it again and again now, I know, but it's like I'm beating a dead horse for like, but like, what is this world? How is Batman's world more optimistic and more hope-filled than Superman's? Like, that is a disconnect. That is a major problem going forward in the DCU.
Like, in Batman's world, people can like hope a bunch of
they can believe
won't kill them, and like in this world, it's like, I don't know. I definitely hate Man of Steel more than I hate Superman. You have confirmed that. You have confirmed that now.
Well, I did one good thing in the world today, I guess.
But we'll probably just end that here.
Okay.
Thank you, Logan. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
This is like everything I wanted and more. Where can they find you, man? Like, pimp your shit.
You can find me on Twitter at LeftyLogie or LeftyLoggy. It's apparently pretty divisive, confusing Twitter handle. So just, LOGGY, just spell it right. You can also find me all over the place on Irrational Passions. I'm just constantly there, bugging Alex O'Neill and friends. Input is a podcast I do with George Cruz and Jarrett Green on Irrational Passions, or for Irrational Passions. You can check that out. Every Friday, a new episode goes live. We have, actually, I'm going to take some to pimp this out. Yeah. Last week's episode is one of my favorites, maybe my favorite episode of the show, where we interviewed Kyle Seeley, the developer of Emily's Away and Emily's Away 2. I'm really proud of that episode. Me and George interviewed him. It's something that I've been wanting to do for Input, to kind of start to evolve that, to do like interviews with game devs. So I'm really happy with that one, how it turned out. Kyle's a great guy, so you should check that out and go tweet at him and tell him he did a good job. So That's where you
Oh,
can find me.
cool. And I have been your host, Brian Nabeshin Jackson. You can find me on Twitter at Nabeshin186. That's Nabeshin 186. I'm on Irrational Passions every week. Talk about video games and whatnot. And this has been Fresh Off the Dome. Again, like, this is just a podcast that's just to talk, just to go out and just get everything out of your system. And goddamn it, did we do that? Like,
I'm so excited to get together at Extra Life now, Nabeshin, and just sit down and talk to you for hours now after this. I'm so like, I'm ready for it now, man. I'm hyped now after this.
Oh, dude, like, the only person missing from this conversation about Man of Steel is Barrett Courtney, because he's like the only other person on the same page as us right now as far as that movie.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
That'd be some hot takes going on with Barrett Courtney here too.
Yeah. Oh man, maybe let's talk about Man of Steel one day and just like this big Barrett on.
The big thing too is that we somehow did this entire competition, never talked about Dark Knight Rises. So it's supposed to be like a sequel now. We just spend the entire episode talking about the many interesting choices of Dark Knight Rises.
And Abraham Lincoln, but whatever.
And Abraham Lincoln, that's how we do in this podcast.
Dude, like, actually, I have a question for you about that after we're done with this.
Okay.
But yeah, this has been Fresh Off the Dome. This like podcast we do every once in a while, like just to talk about shit. Like this like it's like we get like a lot of stuff in our brains, and just like we just want to just like get it out and just like want to just like ask questions and just like just talk about something with your friends, and like this is all about. You're all killer no filler podcast, so like I always say. So yeah, this has been Fresh Off the Dome, and this is the end. So later, guys. And